evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of council for Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. We're starting at 7:01 p.m. And at this time, we're on item 2. I'd like to confirm the agenda. Are there any emergent items from any of the councilors for tonight? Seeing and hearing none. Administration?
Thank you, Your Worship. We would like to remove item 5.2 under delegations, the Strathmore Handy Bus. They're unable to attend tonight.
Okay, thank you. Did everyone at home hear that?
No.
Okay. We have item 5.2 being excluded tonight because some of the board couldn't make it. So no Strathmore Handy Bus tonight. I thought she was there earlier.
Was she?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw her. Okay, so Councillor Corbeil is not here then. Do we know, Bryce, if she's made a try at the Zoom in?
No,
okay.
She's having technical difficulties.
Okay. All right, thanks. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to confirm the agenda as amended.
So moved, Your Worship.
Okay, we have a motion from Councillor Cox to confirm the agenda as amended. All in favor? And I can see the people at home, so that's passed. We have nothing in camera tonight. We have no presentations or recognitions. And that brings us to item 5, delegations. 5.1, the RCMP quarterly update. And I believe we have Sergeant Salmon tonight. No, we have Staff Sergeant Dale Morgan is here tonight, and Sergeant Salmon. So, gentlemen, welcome tonight, and if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium, or you can sit, Jay. Good evening and welcome, and we look forward to your report.
Your Worship, I sent the report over earlier this week. Today I did send over an updated copy. We were able to actually finally extract some second quarter stats to include in the report for you. So the report's pretty much straightforward. I did include this time some statistics that go back. We were talking, you were looking to try and get more of a year-to-year comparison. So the format I sent over actually provides the statistics for the last 5 years. So I don't know if you've had a chance to review that, if that meets more of what you folks are looking for.
I think this is the one we just got today. Does it look like this? Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is February 3rd today.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for doing that note.
Any questions from councilors so far? Councillor Montgomery?
Oh, I just have general questions, so if you want me to wait. Or...
Okay, sure. Did you want to carry on and then?
No, just if you had questions, go ahead.
Okay, so Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you very much. This is on. Okay. So I just had a question. So the COVID Act calls, like what was the nature of those calls, and then what was the outcome generally?
So what we do with the COVID is that's actually where we're in partnership with the federal government to do the quarantine checks to make sure that people that have come back to the country are adhering to the we do random checks on earthly checks.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And from that, there's criminal charges. There's all compliant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My next question is, what are the nature of the municipal bylaw calls that you guys are responding to?
That could be things like dogs or animals at large or whatever.
Okay, and that's just outside of normal bylaw hours?
Yeah, it may be stuff that we get during the day too that is redirected to the bylaw enforcement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that we've been working with Mike here this week because they were actually trying to, they had a coyote in town there that they thought was going to be problematic, so.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Sobel?
Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good.
So thank you, Staff Morgan. I got all the stats that I needed and more, so I appreciate that. I guess one comment and one question. The comment is in regards to the fact that it appears anyway that 2020 was a pretty good year for you guys, statistics-wise. Lots of decreases in crime. So in spite of the fact that nobody else is having a good time, it looks like policing did well. And I'm sure that has lots to do with your team, that's the detachment, and all the hard work they've been doing. So congratulations on that. It certainly looks like some good statistics on the sheets anyway. The only question I have would be in regards to provincial traffic, which, and that's the only one that really came to my mind, is as a huge number difference in past years. And that brings me to the question of whether or not the enhanced traffic enforcement is still working out of this detachment.
There is a Rocky View enhanced position out of the detachment here, but there's nothing.
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything.
Well, maybe your microphone is the button pushed?
The blue light's on.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
You there?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Rocky View has an enhanced position that's staffed out of this office, but that's it.
I'm sorry, I heard Rocky View County. I'm talking about enhanced traffic enforcement in town.
Yes, there is no enhanced position in town. The only enhanced position in this office is funded by Rocky View.
No, I'm sorry, I think we're on different topics. The traffic enforcement, the guys we pay overtime for to run traffic in town.
No, there's been none this year.
Oh, none this year?
No.
Would that, do you think that might be a reason for the decrease in the traffic violations, the provincial traffic tickets?
Yeah, most likely, I would think. Yeah.
It's just, it went from 369 in 2019 to 160, so roughly just a little over 200 less tickets are written. It's hard to criticize that when traffic collisions have also gone down. So, I mean, that's a good news story. I just want to, I think enforcement is still a crucial part in keeping our traffic collisions down, that's all. And maybe we can discuss in the future resurrecting the enhanced traffic enforcement in town, because for years it has worked very well and has focused on some serious issues such as distracted driving in our community, which has not gone away. So, thank you.
But since I've been here, Your Worship, if you recall, when we did our consultation, when I first got here on our priorities going forward, we've increased the expectation on the members on shift to be performing traffic duties, so.
I don't think he's still not hearing him, or they're not able to hear at home. Is that microphone working for Staff Sergeant Morgan?
Well, every time he gets close
Dale,
to it.
do you want to take this one? This one might work a bit better.
I feel like karaoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, Bob, yeah, as I said, the obligation, we've put increased obligation on the members on shift. I've increased the expectation for them on traffic law enforcement since I've been here. So I think the visibility, they've been out quite a bit too. With the COVID, we've really forced them out of the office, tried to get them working in the car. So I think the increased visibility too goes a long ways. I mean, it might not reflect in traffic stats because, of course, the more visible you are, that has an effect as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and I just thought you were gleaning towards whether or not like there was actually a highway patrol unit still working out of this office,
No.
and yeah, they haven't
No.
been here since I've been here. So
No, I left Highway Patrol 17 years ago. Don't really want to go back there. Thank you.
We're hiring.
That was a joke.
Thank you. Any other questions from councillors?
Yes, please.
Oh, Councillor Cox?
Thank you, Your Worship. This has nothing to do with your stats. I'm wondering if you could give us, and maybe you can't, but can you give us could you possibly give us a brief outline as to, we received some information that the impaired driving charges is all being redone?
Rejig, yes.
Could you give us maybe a,
So there's new legislation that comes into effect December 1st with a bunch of new penalties. It's going to be increased roadside suspension. It's going to pretty much parallel what other provinces has done where it's an administrative program. So it's a lot more administrative measures against people as opposed to putting them into the court system. Our first training session, I believe, on that is tomorrow. So we'll have a little more understanding of it then. But yeah, you're going to see things like increased vehicles suspended, increased driving prohibitions and all that without going through the criminal system. It's kind of like a decriminalization of the straight impaired driving legislation, and it'll be more criminal processes if there's injury or death-related accidents
sorry?
and multiple offenses. He said.
Yeah, so I think, like, I've been asked numerous times, it seems to the public that you are lessening what's happening to them. So I don't think that everyone is understanding that it just means that they aren't going to have the opportunity to fight it. Is that more of what you're saying?
So I need to back up to the you comment. Who is the you?
Okay,
So the you is legislation. So we don't generate legislation.
right.
So we're only the enforcement.
The enforcement.
arm of
So
it, yeah.
I guess what I'm looking to understand is a little bit more that we aren't, or we, again, we aren't legislating less or enforcing less. They are just changing that enforcement to be less in court, more, you did it, you're done.
Yeah, I think that the best way to explain it is what the other provinces have found is that the court process is very lengthy and cumbersome and lots of issues. So by putting an administrative process, it's going to be more effective, quicker penalties, and actually it's going to increase, make us more effective in targeting impaired driving. You'll still be able to dispute them. It'll be more of an administrative process than it will be a court challenge. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Staff Sergeant Morgan? And this may be the last time we have you come before us because you're very close to the end.
I am, Your Worship. So this will be the last time. Friday, I go on leave pending my retirement January 31st.
Okay, and can you tell us who will be in your place as acting? And it'll be Sergeant Salmon, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. And
You're stuck
Jade,
with them.
sorry, Sergeant Salmon, do you know when the recruiting process might be beginning for the replacement for Staff Sergeant Morgan?
It's already begun.
It's already begun?
Yeah, we sent the
I don't have
paperwork
any
in.
information, but we have talked with staffing and they're initiating their process.
Okay, and then we'll be notified?
Yep.
Okay,
Whether it goes to a lateral or to a promotion, I'll make sure you guys are notified.
okay, thank you.
And we had advanced your comment that you wanted to go to the AMUA there about seeing if they'll involve you in the consultation.
Right, we had that Zoom meeting where we expressed an interest that we should be at the table as far as a part of the recruitment process. Thank you for advancing that.
Yep.
So we wish you well in your retirement.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, and thank you for your report tonight.
All right, have a good day.
And that brings us to item 5.3, the introduction of the new Assistant Chief of Diversity, Inclusion, and Recruiting. Good evening, Deputy Chief, and welcome. If you wouldn't mind coming to the podium, you can do your introductions, and we can welcome the new staff member.
Good evening, Your Worship. Can you hear me okay?
Are you folks hearing at home?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's my pleasure to introduce our new Deputy Chief of Diversity, Inclusion, and Recruitment. Lori is known for building inclusive and high-performance cultures that strengthen communities. She is an executive-level change agent who worked for the City of Calgary Fire Department and the City of Calgary for more than 30 years, rising to the rank of Deputy Chief, while also consulting internationally for 20 of those. Lori holds a Master of Science, magna cum laude, with the, what's the name of your university? Sure, that's how you say it. University in the Netherlands, specializing in sustainable development, along with numerous other interdisciplinary degrees and certifications. Lori brings a diverse background of experience from the public, not-for-profit, and private sectors to the town of Strathmore. Her rich experience comes from working with the different facets of organizational development and change management to motivate, educate, and create. Recently retired from Calgary, Lori is now Strathmore Fire Department's Assistant Chief of Diversity, Inclusion, and Recruitment, as well as a freelance consultant internationally and locally, and also as an instructor at the Bow Valley College. In her career, she has consistently advocated for diverse communities, developed plan and change initiatives, and provided senior consulting services and planning to numerous businesses, agencies, and organizations. She has extensive experience in mental health, public participation, strategic planning, sustainable development, diversity services, qualitative and quantitative research, and equity solutions. Lori is currently the lead for the International Association of Fire Chiefs Diversity, Inclusion, Leadership Program, the chair for the International Fire Chiefs Human Relations Committee, the national co-chair of the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs, CFAC, National Subcommittee on Diversity and Inclusion, the co-chair of the CFAC Women Fire Chiefs and Company Officers Network of Canada, and a founder and lead for the Alberta Fire Services Emergency Management and Wildfire Women. We call ourselves a few women. Outside of the fire service, she is also vice chair for the Center of Sexuality. In recognition of her passion for diversity and inclusion, Lori has received several accolades, including Immigrants of Distinction, Organizational Diversity Award for Outstanding Achievement in Implementing Cultural Diversity Initiatives, and a Federation of Canada Municipalities Award for Outstanding Contributions to International Cooperation. Lori is married, has 2 children, is an active participant and volunteer in sports and social justice activism. Every day, Lori aims to live her credo, I educate, I create, and I inspire. Lori Vandershoot.
Welcome, and we hope you enjoy your stay with us on staff. Would you like to say a few words as far as what you're hoping, what you're thinking of in your new role? We'll put you on the spot, I guess.
You don't know me very well, Your Worship. I talk a lot. Well, I am absolutely honored and humbled to serve the town of Canmore. I think, not Canmore. You are not Canmore.
Oops.
I got introduced the other day as being from Strathcona County instead of Strathmore, so I'm messing up all over the place. My apologies. But under the direction of Chief West, I am super excited about what we can do here in Strathmore. I'm passionate, as you can tell, about diversity and inclusion. It's kind of my lifeblood. I consult internationally on this topic, and I'm really, really excited about what we can do here. I've had some conversations with Councillor Peterson about what you're doing here, and I'm really excited about some of those relationships. And so I'm just happy to serve and happy to help any way I can.
That's great. I think it sounds like we're quite fortunate to have you, and welcome to our staff, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Any questions or comments from Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, I'd just like to welcome Assistant Chief Van Schut, and I'm just so grateful that our fire service has undertaken this. And I think it highlights the importance of the work that we're doing with our Siksika neighbors, and it highlights the importance of welcoming all people to our community and to our environment. And it shows that we're not just saying these things, that we're actually taking action to embrace inclusion and to break down those barriers that we've seen. And I really believe that it will position us to strengthen the partnerships that will form a really strong foundation for this community going forward. And I'm grateful to you, Mr. Mayor, and to our Fire Chief West and our leadership for promoting this. I'm very, very grateful, and to our Siksika partners for urging us into a different world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once again, Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you could maybe talk about, like, as far as your purpose goes, like what you see where we are now versus where you think we could be, you know, as a result of your leadership, let's say.
Your Worship, we can't hear Councillor Montgomery.
I think it's his mic. He's working on that. And Councillor Montgomery, if you wouldn't mind just repeating that.
Can you hear me?
Now it's on.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just talk about like where we are now versus where you think we could be, you know, in some time.
Specific to the fire department or specific to the town?
Like, are you recruiting? You're recruiting for the fire department, right? Yeah. So just specific to the fire department, like where you think we'll be as far as improvements and whatnot.
Sure. Well, I think as Councillor Peterson said, I have just been overwhelmingly impressed with the town's commitment, passion, and direction, and the work that's already been done, the relationship with the nations. And so I think there's some solid foundation there. Internationally, women in the fire service make up less than about 3% of the fire service, and it is arguable that there is no industry that is more of a laggard than the fire departments, or than the fire industry. And so from a recruitment perspective, you know, when we talk about diversity, inclusion, and recruitment, you know, diversity and inclusion is our purpose, recruitment is where we start from. And so recruitment is about how we get more people in the door, but it's not just about diversity, because it's not just about those numbers. It's not just about how many people you have that are different, but it's about that sense of belonging, it's about that sense of inclusion, and how we can create a culture of openness and belonging and welcomeness, and how we can create that. And so I think the work that we've already seen Chief West and Chief Unsworth do, I think has really set a foundation, and I think we can build from that and stand on the shoulders of those giants to really to make some incredible progress and continue to see those relationships, particularly with the nation, of course, and start to see some stronger bonds there, and then how we can continue to create the kind of culture for this, you know, for a new kind of world.
Sorry, like when we talk about fighting fires, like what does that have to do specifically with like Siksika Nation? I'm not.
From a recruitment perspective, apologies, if I was.
Oh, okay.
And how we can create those relationships and those, I mean, we don't necessarily call it mutual aid, but how we can work more closely and in a more of a relationship between the town and the nation.
If I could follow up on Councillor Montgomery's question, will you also be touching base with Siksika's social services offices here? We're finding that obviously a town our size, close to Siksika Nation, we're getting more people coming to live in our community. Maybe there's a way to reach out and get some recruits that way too, so they become an active part of our community, since they are living in our community now. Right. So they're our residents. So is that something you folks see yourselves doing too?
Well, I think I always like to say that, you know, in the first 90 days, I like to do a lot of look, listen, and learn. And so I think we're very much in that phase, trying to kind of do a little bit of research about where we are, and then try and figure out where we want to be. You know, I've had some conversations with some folks in town, Chief West, Chief Unsworth. We're really starting to understand some of those. I love this idea about starting to reach out to social services, for example, and how we can create better relationships there and create some good partnerships. So I'm definitely going to chat with Chief West about that, because I think it's a really interesting idea you've got here, Worship. Thank you.
Other comments from councillors or questions? Once again, welcome to Strathmore and welcome to our fire department. And thank you, Chief West and Deputy Chief Unsworth, for the introductions and being here tonight. We wish you all the best in your new career here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my honor to serve.
Thank you. All right, and that brings us to item 6. We have nothing on consent, no consent agenda. Item 7, confirmation of minutes. 7.1, the adoption of the November 4th, 2020 organizational meeting minutes. Councillor Cox? Oh, sorry, you're making that motion to adopt? Yes. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to adopt those minutes. All in favor?
Could we have discussion, please? I have a question.
Sure.
Before we adopt those minutes, I believe from watching the YouTube video of the organizational meeting that there was an opportunity, because I was not present, for me to weigh in on any committees that I would either like to be a part of or any additions that I'd like to make. So there was a mistake made. I am currently on the Canadian Badlands board, and that's not listed as one of my boards, my council committee boards, and so I would like to please add that on. And then I did actually want to make an application to see if whether or not Councillor Sobel would be amicable to either have me as an alternate on the Chamber of Commerce board, or if whether or not after his tenure on that board being over, 2 or 3 years, I don't know, I would have to ask him whether or not he would be willing to step down and allow me to take that position as well.
Okay, Jennifer, does that make sense to you?
Thank you, Your Worship. It does make sense. However, Your Worship, I'm not sure if it belongs in this section of the meeting in approving the minutes. I believe further on, there's a notice of motion from Councillor Bauer in regard to...
For alternates.
For alternates. If there is an error in regard to the board, we can definitely correct that in the minutes. However, I think the second matter should probably move to that notice of motion.
Okay, so you can make that addition of the Canadian Badlands for Councillor
Your Worship,
Bauer?
if indeed that was done at the meeting, if it wasn't done at the meeting, we would need a separate motion in order to change that.
I don't even see you on here. I'm on the back of, what page is it? It says, where is it? That was Councillor Peterson
Your
made a
Worship.
motion. Right
Jennifer?
here on page 13.
Your Worship, we're about to run into a bit of a problem with our feed on Zoom. So administration would like to request a 5-minute break, please.
Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute recess? Do you need a motion for that? Okay, can someone give us a motion? Councillor Bauer has a motion to take a 5-minute recess. All in favor?
Oh, yes.
And we're in recess. welcome back to the regular council meeting for November 18th. For those of you who are watching at home, we apologize. We've had some technical difficulties, but we're back. And just to explain to the public at home, I know tonight many people are probably tuning in because of the mask bylaw that's going to be discussed, and you see some of us up here with no masks. What we're doing is we have created a lot of physical distancing between us, and so as long as physical distancing is maintained, we're operating at the front here with no masks. But when we do travel throughout the building, if we go to the kitchen, we definitely put the masks on as much as possible. So I wanted to clarify that for you at home. I'm sure you're probably wondering why I'm not wearing a mask. That brings us to the last item where we're on, 7.1. We have a motion on the floor to adopt the November 4th, 2020 organizational meeting minutes. That was a motion made by Councillor Cox. And I'll call the motion. All in favor? And, okay, Melanie, I see you too. Good. So that's it. That motion is carried. We move on to 7.2, the adoption of the November 4th, 2020 regular council meeting minutes. Councillor Solo?
I move those minutes, Your Worship.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to adopt those meeting minutes. All in favor? And the motion is carried. We have no tabled items. That brings us to item 9, items and reports from administration. 9.1, policy number 3201, winter maintenance policy, which is on page 22. And Mr. Simpson, welcome. And Donna, welcome.
Donna will be giving most of the presentation tonight. It is fairly lengthy, and we'll try to maybe just stick to what we think might be the more important parts of the policy that we're presenting, but obviously we're here to field any questions you might have. So just I don't know, we had a bit of a PowerPoint. I don't know if we got it on or not, but okay. Is it? Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's, and then go to the second page. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll just go straight to the meat of the matter. With the review that Donna and I taken, we've done a fairly thorough review. I think you can probably see from what you have in front of you. But just to sort of scale it down to the more important items and that happened within, or the changes that we're proposing. One is we did some better definitions in the policy than what we had before. I think it will make it clearer to understand. We've also delegated more authorization to the manager, and the manager is responsible for operations, and I think in my view and Donna's view, it makes more sense to have your manager determining when there's a snow event and when the equipment should be sent out than a director. Donna is the expert in this field. The other areas that we dealt with is we've got enhanced levels of service, particularly in the downtown core, and Donna will highlight those as she goes through the presentation. We have set priorities on pathways and sidewalks throughout the town. So rather than just talking about cleaning the sidewalks of snow and ice, we have set out priorities 1, 2, and 3, I believe it is. So these particular pathways will be done in order of their priority. So, and lastly, there were some road priorities that were changed slightly, and I'm sure Donna will highlight throughout the presentation. So with that, Your Worship, I'd like Donna to take over.
Thank you very much, Jim, for your report. Donna, welcome tonight.
Thank you. Okay, so just because of timing, I won't go through every single change. I'm sure as you see in the red line version that I sent out, that a lot of the changes in the policy had to just do with the definitions and a little bit more enhancement just on that end of it. So I won't really go through every single one of those ones. But is there a way to get my red line version up on here? If not, that's okay. It's okay. That's okay, then I'll just go through it like that. That's fine. Okay, so starting with the first thing is the title change. So as Jim discussed, we've now enhanced the winter road pathway and sidewalk maintenance policy, as it does encompass the pathways a little bit more than what it was. It was very vague before. Also, for the last 2 years, Operations has been working on a mapping system for priority routes for the pathways and sidewalks. And I think that you may already see that has already occurred, because we've been using it and practicing with it just to see how it goes, and then making the changes as we kind of saw necessary. So that would be the reason for the title change. I'll just start with the first here. Okay. So the first one I want to kind of point out is with regards to the Central Business District, 2.2. In the past, Waddy Lane was part of the Central Business District. We've removed that from that area. The reason being is it's incredibly difficult for the plow trucks to get down that road. There's parking on both sides of the road. It's a little bit narrow. So the staff have told me that generally they actually can't even make it down that road. And when they have been able to make it down that road, they basically plow all the vehicles in. So we did remove it. I know there's some sensitivity around the lodge, but we did keep 2nd Street. So 2nd Street does start from 817 and goes all the way to Ridge Road. So if the lodge isn't an issue, then they still will have parking. That would be one. The second I'd like to point out is 2.7 of an addition to a drainage corridor. There's many areas in Strathaven that the water has to flow through some of those pathways in order to remove any melting events or rain events. So it's critical that we keep those pathways open, that the water can actually flow down those. The next one, which is a small little addition, is including pedestrian maneuverability to the impassable definition. There has been times that we have not been able to do our priority 2 and priority 3 pathways and sidewalks, just if there's lots of drifting and that sort of thing, that sometimes we just have to abort the mission and we just stay on our regional pathways and just keep those open for the pedestrian travelability. The next one is the addition of a local pathway. So that's one of the 3 that's included in there, which we can get to when we get to that section. 2.15, addition of manager to the definitions. As you'll see throughout the new policy, that the word manager is used quite a bit in there. I did make one small little error in my RFD of 2.21. There is a definition for a public pathway, and then under that would be the regional pathway. Also an addition of a sidewalk to 2.24. And then 2.25 is what is, as a 2.25 is the definition of a snow event. So what triggers us to mobilize equipment and people is basically 3 centimeters of snow on the roads, pathways, or sidewalks. I think originally the policy stated that the priority 1 roadways were to be cleared within 24 hours of a storm ending. So if no snow, that's how it ends, is as soon as there's no snow within 24 hours, the event is deemed over. And we are tracking our equipment, labor, and materials according to the snow event.
However, it doesn't mean the snow event is over on our end. It means that once the event is over, we can move on to our 2s and 3s and our cleanup, which would include widening. Obviously, we're always continually monitoring the roads and the sidewalks and the pathways, that if they need ice melt or sanding, we're always out. This is, it's winter, that's what we do. That's our main priority, is keeping the traveling public safe. So 2.30 is also an enhanced level of service. So one of the things that we've found in the downtown core is there's really nowhere to put snow. There are some of the beds you can put the snow in there, but what ends up happening is it piles up so much so quickly that it actually then impedes the vision of seeing pedestrians crossing the roadways and stuff. So we're going to work with the Central Business District and the contractors and the businesses themselves, and we're encouraging them to put the snow into the parking stalls. And then we come along once they've done that, and we're clearing them. I don't know if anybody's been downtown in the last 2 snow events, but if you have, I'm sure you've probably seen that we created piles and we have removed the snow from those. So easy accessibility for anybody who does want to visit the downtown core. So that is one of our enhanced levels of service right there. 2.32 is the winter road maintenance, that's what it was originally called. We're now changing that to winter snow and ice maintenance. So that basically is our internal operations of plowing, sanding, et cetera, that comes with snow events. 3.2, okay, so in 3.2, the original was the director was the person who designated all those following items, which is establishing a procedure to implement the policy, allocating, scheduling, and monitoring the operational resources, obtain, allocate, and schedule private sector resources, respond to public concerns, manage the budget provided by council, and recommend amendment to the policy to council as required. We believe that that is all operational decisions, so therefore have designated that to the manager. All the changes that you see under the roadway maintenance was just basically housekeeping, just little things like anything under 10, the number 10 should be written out, so just those types of changes. Also with definitions that were in the existing policy of, it wasn't just plowed, it was snow plowed, so just little things like that. I guess also one thing I would also like to point out is 4.3 is also an enhanced maintenance, enhanced level of service. So after we are done a snow event, if need be, any of those priority 1, 2, and 3 roadways, as well as the sidewalks and pathways, will receive widening. So this allows us to have more area to put snow, basically. If we remove it off the road, push it up onto green spaces where possible. So that would be an enhanced level of service. And then I'll just wait for that one, actually. Okay, so 5.5 was also originally designated to the director, which was when the manager, or when the original statement was when the director is deemed conditions on non-priority roads are deemed impassable, he or she may direct snow plowing operations to commence. We've changed that to manager, as that is an operational decision. And 6.1, same thing, an operational decision that we have designated to the manager. So basically when we should do snow and ice control. Same with 6.2, the town parking lots and lanes, again, gave that designation to the manager as opposed to the director. And then 7.5, this is also an enhanced level of service. In the downtown core, basically when that 3 centimeters of snow falls, I do have what I call a ground crew, and their job will be to go and they start working on getting the handicap parking stalls cleared out. So just allows, there's a lot of handicap parking downtown, which is well utilized, so we want to make sure that people that do have mobility issues can get out of their vehicle safely. 7.6 was also originally the director, and now the manager during snow removal events may deploy external resources if necessary. So the big one you'll see here is the priority set for the town sidewalks and pathways. This area has definitely been enhanced. As you saw, there was maps that came out that now the public will be aware of how we are going to do our snow clearing when there's an event, deemed an event. And so 9.0, extreme winter event. 9.1, the original, during the extreme winter event, the additional resources may be required. Originally, the director was to declare the extreme winter event. This has now been designated to the manager, as well as 9.2. However, 9.4, when it comes to the snow reserve funds, that still remains with the director. And of course, any of the reserve fund expenses that are used are going to be reported to the CAO, and obviously in a timely manner. And the CAO has discretion in the declared extreme winter event to cover such budget expenditures from financial stabilization funds, which shall be reported to council at the next available regular meeting of council. And those were my major changes. Just wanted to talk a little bit about something for council to consider. As we mentioned, the 3 centimeters of snow is what triggers an event. What I did want to just bring forward to you is that if you would want to maybe reconsider the 3 centimeters. 3 centimeters is about 1 inch of snow. It's not a whole lot. If you see the following chart, the common theme is around 5 centimeters, which is about close to 2 inches of snow. That seems to be the common theme around most of the municipalities. Some are a little bit extreme. Some of theirs are a little bit more in depth as well with their policies, where they use snowpack as part of their, when it's determined that they go and actually do their snow removal.
Questions from councilors? I just have one and then I'll turn it over to everyone. How are we doing on the reserve funds? I think last year was a fairly mild year as far as snowfall.
Yes, to
So-
my knowledge, nothing has been taken from it.
Okay.
That in 2018, it was established, the snow reserve fund. There was nothing put in for the remainder of 2018 or 2019, and so far in 2020, there's been nothing put in there as well.
Okay, so we're in pretty good shape as far as a
It's
reserve?
around $100,000 in there right now.
Okay,
Nothing's been taken out. No,
okay.
nothing
Well,
has been taken out. No,
that's good
nothing's-
news because we don't know what this year's going to be like.
It is 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know.
Questions from councilors? I have Councilor Cox and then Councilor Montgomery and then Councilor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, of course, I'm going to go down the road of priorities. And you already kind of brought up my biggest one that I looked at. You have priority 1, all the schools, hospital, Sagewood, but not our lodge. And so how are ambulances going to, what if an ambulance needs to get there? I thought, like, when we talked about priority 1s in the past, priority 1 to me meant an ambulance needs to get there. And you do not have an ambulance able to get to the lodge, which we require.
So, and is the normal access of the lodge, is that not from the 817?
No,
Or the-
it's nowhere.
Sorry, where is it from exactly? Like, where's
Well, the lodge is tucked in behind.
No, she means like coming off the 817 on the second, because it would be second that we usually go on.
Yeah, it could be second, yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
That's kind of where I looked at where they would drive in, but if I'm wrong, then I could absolutely have that changed. I do want to make sure, obviously, that if there was an emergency.
Well, they can't get to the 817 without going on one of our other roads. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you can't get to the lodge from the, like, you can get there from the 817, but there's no road like not a priority one anyways,
No,
plowed
that was-
to
that
the
was-
lodge.
That was never a priority one in there. Those were always priority 3s, but if you would like it changed, we can absolutely look at that.
Okay, well, I'm just, like, you tell me, because, I mean, I see that your priority 3s, or your priority 1s are actually the schools, the hospital, and the lodge requires an ambulance to get to it, probably almost weekly. Could be daily, and you have no way of an ambulance getting there.
That makes sense?
Okay.
That makes sense.
That was-
Absolutely address that.
Okay, that was my winter one, then that, or the road one, that
Yes.
one made perfect sense to me, like, that it needed it. The one where I'm kind of questioning, I'm confused, I guess, is the pathway one for, and it's different colors, so it kind of threw me for a loop. Your priority one is orange
Yes.
versus blue. So, but I'm confused as to why the town lake, or the lake is being considered a priority one, but the canal along Thomas Drive, which literally is probably our most popularly used pathway system, is not a priority one.
Well, Kinsman Lake is, the reason we left that as a priority 1 is that is really well used, and we did look at, so the route that you see here, on average, the person who does this within an hour. And so they are moved on to that priority 2 route right away, so that canal actually is done quite quickly.
So my only concern, again, now I'm going from the elderly down to the young people. So you have this, and this neighborhood, that all the kids that are going to schools use that path. So,
Sorry, are you talking the Thomas path? or-
yes.
Okay. Well, the way we looked at that.
So, and I would be fine, but you don't carry, the sidewalk doesn't go all the way either. You cut it and you stop it at Centennial, and then you pick it up again for a little park, and then you pick it up again at the
Those
very
aren't
end.
sidewalks. Those belong to the residents to clear those portions of the sidewalks.
Okay,
Those sidewalks all abut onto, whether it's a green space, like at the top of Thomas, all the way down to Centennial, where you see that little piece on Centennial, that is a green space, that is all the town property.
Okay, so-
Anywhere where you see those ducts, it's because it's
so,
residential.
so again, my concern goes then, residents aren't gonna get out there, how are those kids getting to the school? Because there's no path for them. That's,
Yeah, it makes sense, yeah. So you would like to look at that as being a priority 1 as well?
well, I think if we're getting all the other communities to their schools, we need to get that huge section to that school, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Some very good points there. Councillor Montgomery, then Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yeah, thank you very much for your work on this, Donna. I appreciate it. Definitely cleaned it up quite a bit. And I just wanted to say something. Yeah, great idea about changing people from dumping snow in flower beds, because as we both know, those are a big problem to clean up in the spring, and the salt and stuff doesn't do much good to them. One question I had, like, so one of the things with snow removal or snow management for me has always been the efficiency.
Can't hear.
And
Sorry, Jason, Councillor Montgomery, they can't hear you again, so I'm not sure if your mic's off or.
I believe it's on.
Then get closer to it.
Is there any way to adjust it?
Just bring it closer to your mouth.
How's this?
There you go, that's better.
Okay. Yeah, so I've always been very concerned about the efficiency, like let's say more than the priorities, you know, and one question I have is, do you guys make it a practice to leave the blades down when you're traveling from one priority to another? Because it seems kind of silly when I see like, and I haven't seen it recently, of course, but when I first got on council, I would see, a vehicle drive by with its blade up, and it's obviously going from one priority 1 to another.
Right.
But it's missing like, a priority 2 or priority 3 along the way, and then it has to, circle back and the same with pathways, like, are we plowing everything on the way to those priorities?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, so hopefully the way the route works out is that the blade should always be down, but once they finish the P1, priority 1, they turn around and they start the P2s, which works backwards.
Okay.
Same thing with the roadways, I think you'll see a difference in situations like that. The only time the blade should be raised on a truck is if there's no snow to be removed,
Yeah.
or if they're sanding, and again, because there's no snow to be removed.
Okay, perfect.
The mapping was a little bit, like internally was a little wonky.
Okay. Yeah, because I've always been like kind of curious to like know what the actual like kind of route is and stuff like that. But okay, thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Bauer, and then Councillor Sobel, and then Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Donna, for your report. It's very extensive and even better by adding on so many different layers than even I've seen the last few years. So congratulations to you and your team for continuing to give lots of feedback and just make this better. So I do have a couple things that kind of popped up for me. So I did see that in the event of a ice storm or something, that the manager would also be called. It doesn't quite say whether or not, well, of course it wouldn't be saying in this, but maybe I could just ask you, what is the process and how is it different during an ice storm versus a snowstorm? And because we have actual, snowfall that we're measuring during, but when we had an ice event a week ago or so, and it was just glass, like George Freeman was glass, Centennial Drive was glass, and I was driving. And I was wondering okay, so what's the trigger point here? Can you explain that to me a little bit?
So, as I mentioned earlier, that the crews, that's part of our winter strategy, is we're always checking the roads, regardless if it's snowing or not. So during that event, when there was just ice, there was a little bit of accumulation, but it was mostly just ice. We were out with our sand trucks. We always have a supervisor or myself are out checking the roads, determining when the staff should be called in to respond to the event. So even though it may be 3 centimeters, doesn't mean that that's all it takes for us to actually get out there and do that work. If the roads are unsafe, we're going to be out there taking care of that.
So we can tell people that you're essentially available, or the manager is available 24/7.
Yes.
If there is something happening on our roads, we're going to be dealing with it. That's
Exactly.
awesome.
And encourage them to call the on-call number if things are absolutely dangerous out there. When you are talking to the citizens, if they brought concerns forward, absolutely have them call that on-call number. My phone's always on. And again, use City Works as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for plugging that. And so with regards to raising the accumulation level from 3 to 5 centimeters, how much would that save us as a municipality?
Good question. I can't actually give you a number, but I could certainly look into exactly how much that would save us. It would save us more just around time, I would say probably.
Mr. Simpson?
That will be a difficult question to answer. If you could tell me how much snow and how often.
Oh, I know exactly how much snow we're going to have this year. Yeah, it's 2020. Yeah, we all know what's going to happen.
I think it would be really a big guess, but if Donna feels she can give you an answer on it, all of my caution is that it's just impossible to determine a dollar figure because it depends on the number of events and how much the event.
Exactly. I'm just trying to, in my head, weigh a cost-benefit analysis, like whether or not the public is going to be happy if we move to 5 centimeters, or if we're even going to notice. It's such a minuscule difference, but it might make a difference to the bottom line. So I would really like to investigate that and see whether or not it could be a difference, because if it's early in the season and we can make this change and save a little bit of money, I think this is the year to do it. The other thing I also looked at is some sidewalks on here don't seem to connect, and I think you kind of addressed that when you were talking to Councillor Cox, and you said that some are residential in areas. But I'm thinking about Thomas Drive specifically. We have a paved path that goes up almost to the end of the canal. Could we not have people use the paved path instead of the residential side, and then have them cross over at Tom Sadler Bridge, and then continue to go up?
That's exactly what Councillor Cox was saying, exact same thing, yeah.
Oh, exactly, just different words. Okay, awesome, good. And
Right,
and
am
then,
I correct?
yes,
Okay.
exactly. Now, I also noticed that currently, this town hall is identified as a priority 1. Will that be changed once we move into our new location?
Yes, that will be a priority 1.
Excellent. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you very much, Donna.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Sobel and then Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, and I'll try to be quick. I appreciate this report a great deal, Donna, and to all your staff that have helped with it. My initial concern centered around pathways, of course, but I think everything's dealt with quite well, except one question arose, and that is in regards to whether staff are aware or whether it's on your map, and I might note that the map was too small for me to find that out, but whether staff is aware that they're required to clean the portion of the sidewalk that intersects with the pathway.
Yes, they are aware of that,
Okay.
yes.
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 It hasn't been
talking
always
more-
done in the past, but this year I have noticed it being done. So obviously, I think there's a change, but I just wanted to make sure that that was something specific being noted.
Yes, in the past, when I first started working here, that was one of the first things I noticed that they were not doing. So by creating these maps, that was the intention of this, was to ensure that it wasn't just pathways, that the sidewalks that are intersecting with those and then are up against a park or a green space are our responsibility to clear as well.
Fantastic. And I really, I took great satisfaction in hearing you say that the priority 1 pathways are normally done within an hour. That's amazing. We, especially during this year of COVID, I think the pathways are being used more than ever, and that includes wintertime too. So I mean, I know there's a 48-hour time frame, but I'm satisfied that that's not going to be a norm, but rather an exception if that does happen. So I'm pleased to see your attitude in regards to pathways, and obviously you're very cognizant of the fact that we've spent lots of dollars and lots of time working on our walkability in our community. So thank you for that. And my last comment, I really appreciate the fact that we have 12.1 in the new policy, which requires an annual review. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. I have Councillor Corbeil, and then I neglected to get Councillor Peterson before you speak again. So Corbeil, then Peterson, then Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Donna, very much for this great report. When I first got on council after that winter of all winters, I was really surprised what our budgets actually were for snow clearing. It's lower than I expected.
Can we increase their volume?
My one question that I have is, Donna, does the town have efficiencies when clearing like priority 1 and priority 2 routes? Like, the reason I'm going there is this is my biggest complaint is, that the fact that like George Freeman is cleared 5 times before it goes into any other road, and that's just where I was going with the efficiencies.
Those are the efficiencies that we are looking at improving on, is exactly that. So if George Freeman Trail priority 1 and Brent Boulevard are priority 1s, but you only see the truck going up and down Brent Boulevard and never going down, only going down George Freeman Trail and not down Brent Boulevard, that's a problem.
Thank you.
Frozen.
You're frozen.
Does that help, Councillor Corbeil?
Absolutely, it does.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson and Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to speak to 12.1, as Councillor Sobel had mentioned, and I was wondering if we shouldn't add an approximate date in there so that we can always make sure we get this report prior to budget. I know that Donna does that anyway, and after she's been here for 25 more years, we just want to make sure that that is dated so that it's timely in the policy. And if you're ready, Your Worship, I'm prepared to make a motion.
My intention was to come after in the spring with an update on how we did, basically.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Cox, do you have one more question then?
Yeah, I
Before
just-
the motion?
Is that okay?
Just hang on, Councillor Peterson.
Sorry. Just wanted to thank you. I also wanted to say, and I didn't reiterate it, that I love that you've done this research, and I thoroughly enjoy that they're comparables to us, and some have more snow, some have less snow, and that I support the 5 centimeter if that is something that you were actually looking for us to comment on.
Sure.
And I didn't, so I apologize because I meant to, and thank you very much, Donna. It's going to be excellent.
Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. One thing I wanted to bring up is that I've noticed in years past that, or like just the previous couple of years, especially since we've invested a lot of money into new equipment and kind of specialized equipment, that
You can't hear, Your Worship.
we've come under budget by quite a bit, and at the same time we're getting complaints though, and so we're kind of we're taxing people a certain amount of money, obviously for and we're budgeting a certain amount for snow removal. So is there a way where we can maybe, like, in times where we are going to be undershooting the budget, we could maybe make our snow removal more comprehensive or management more comprehensive? We are getting to some of the more residential, especially the problematic streets that you guys probably get a lot of complaints about.
Yes, and that's going to be part of our plan anyway. When I was discussing earlier about that we're always out checking roads, this isn't just our priority 1s, 2s, and 3s. This is also the residential sector. So if we're driving, if one of our trucks is a regular pickup truck is driving down a residential road and it's rutted like crazy, we don't want to wait until there's a complaint. We'd rather just send our crews out, go and take care of it. They have the serrated blades on our graders. They can go break that up and fill those in, that sort of thing. So I think you'll see, hopefully, that the complaints will go down. And when I come with my operations update for council, that's going to be part of what I'm going to include in my operations update, is we're tracking complaints, whether they belong to us or maybe to somebody else, but just our response time on those complaints and how we mitigated it as well, just so you can see that, we're not letting those just fall on deaf ears, that they are actually being taken care of.
Okay, great. And just for the public, if anyone can actually hear me, this is a good opportunity or a good time to make use of the work request form on the town website. So if you do have a problem that you would like to notify the town about, go to the town website and then look for the work request form. Thank you.
Thank you. And just before I go to
Your
Councillor,
Worship, we're not hearing anything here on that.
are you hearing Donna at all?
I can hear Donna, yep.
Okay. All right, so we'll try to get Councillor Montgomery really close to the microphone.
My mic might be dead,
Okay. There might be a dead microphone that we're checking on. Just before I go to Councillor Peterson's motion, a question to Mr. Legore. If we're to provide some sort of direction to Donna as far as the accumulation trigger for a snow event, how does that come about? Like, how do we get that to you? Is it you just want a straw poll of us, or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there should be a motion to amend the draft policy from 3 centimeters to 5 centimeters, and then you can adopt the policy as amended. I think Donna has got clear directions on what the priorities are from a mapping point of view, and she will be able to make those adjustments, and that's why I say we adopt the policy as amended.
Okay, so do you need an amendment to that motion then, do you not?
Request to speak?
Councillor Sobel?
So I have some specific ideas and concerns about moving that from 3 to 5. But one of the questions that has been raised already by Councillor Bauer is in regards to cost. So I'm just, as a suggestion, is it possible to pass this policy as it is and have this returned to us at the next council meeting with some additional information regarding possible savings, and maybe we can have a conversation as to some of the pros and cons of moving this from 3 to 5, because I see some definite cons in moving it to 5, and I will not be again. I will be against that concept. So But I don't know if now's the right time to do that without all the information.
So that would give us more information coming forward as far as
You're louder.
what we would be able to look at. So, Mr. Legore?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. As Mr. Simpson stated, it's going to be very difficult to give you a finite number of what that savings is. What my recommendation would be, if you want to try it for a season, go to 5 centimeters, and then when Donna comes back and reports to council in the spring after the winter, she can be able to speak more to what the savings was, and if you don't feel comfortable that you got a good level of service at 5 centimeters, then change your policy back to 3 centimeters.
My only worry about that is we could get pretty roasted by the public if there's a definite notice in the quality or the service of the roads.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor, but there's nothing stopping you from changing this at any time during the season. Donna is more sensitive than anyone as to what the road conditions are. And if a 5 centimeter policy is not working, she will be the first one before this council telling you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Councillor Sobel?
Well, I'll weigh in on this subject tonight then. I'm still against going to 5. You know, first of all, there's 4 other communities that are at 3, so it's not like we're alone in this. Obviously, there's some benefits to this. And my focus is always on the pedestrian, which is the person that's going to be most affected by raising this from 3 to 5. We have two light snowfalls of 3 centimeters, and no action is taken. Now we have 6 centimeters on the ground, and we haven't had a plow through there. Yes, there's a possibility with Donna at the helm. I imagine she's going to send somebody out, but it's not necessary, and it's not according to policy. So I'm all for our pathways being kept as clean as possible. I will not support raising this from 3 to 5.
Okay, I think we get a lot of complaints with our policy at 3 centimeters, so if we raise it to 5, I think, again, we're going to get a lot of backlash from people. So I'm comfortable with it the way it is, but if you want to make that amendment, we can still vote on that. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. I hope everyone can hear. Okay. My question is, like, we could obviously like stick with a 3 centimeter for the pathways and then go to 5 for the roads, right? Okay. Okay.
Councillor Corbeil?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I kind of have an issue with the pathways as well, because we expect our residents to shovel their sidewalks and everything else. And if we're not keeping up on our pathways, you know, if we have our 2 little 3 centimeter skiffs or whatever you want to call it, we are going to get backlash on that. And we have to set a bar for our communities. And I think our pathways are very important.
And I believe we had a recent fall of a senior at Brent Boulevard, Thomas Drive and the pathway there.
Yeah.
Councillor Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, I would move the council adopt policy number 3201, winter road maintenance policy as presented. And if I might speak to the motion, certainly following Councillor Corbeil, in time, especially in this time of COVID, you know, those pathways have become a life source for people in the community, and we hear about it regularly. And so I think that I would like to leave it as it is, and then if Donna comes back at some later date with a different plan that has an evidence base in it, then I would certainly, as always, listen to her wisdom. But I think we can stick with what is in front of us, Your Worship.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor then. Discussion on the motion, Councillor Bauer?
I would really like to see us try, in light of what's happening with COVID. I do understand that those pathways are being used. I looked at the number of different communities on the municipal snow accumulation comparison, and a lot of the communities that are up there, that are at 5 centimeters, have a very extensive pathway system. And so I'm wondering whether or not we could even make the motion to go to 5 centimeters. I'm looking at my pinky finger. The width of my pinky nail is 1 centimeters. So we're talking about 2 pinky widths of snow, not going from, 5 to 10. We're not doubling it or anything. We're just going to an extra 2/5. And so I really don't think we're talking about a lot of snow here, but it could, in my mind anyways, I'm thinking of metal hitting asphalt, metal hitting cement. It makes more sense to me to have a higher accumulation for our machinery to go out there and be hitting not a skiff of snow, because we get a lot of wind here, but to be going out and doing an actual accumulation of snow. And so I would really, I'm going to unfortunately have to not be able to vote for this policy as presented, and I would like to present an amendment if it's defeated. Thank you.
All right, we do have a motion on the floor then.
If I could just ask a question, please.
Okay, Councillor Montgomery has a question.
Thank you. To Councillor Peterson's point, would you at this time recommend that we look at doing 5 centimeters for at least the roadways?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yes. I would.
Okay. Thank you.
It's really not a lot. For the roadways, it's really not a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
The pathways.
Yeah, I would leave
The
pathways.
pathways at 3, yes, and absolutely could look at putting the roadways at the 5 centimeters.
Okay.
Okay, so did everyone at home hear Donna's comments? Oh, you didn't, Councillor Peterson?
Not for sure, no.
Okay, she's saying that in her recommendation would be to go with a 5 centimeter accumulation for the roads, but stay at 3 for the pathways. That's her view as far as the roads. So we do have a motion on the floor, and I'll call the question and then we can deal with whatever happens, I guess. So, all in favor of the motion as presented? All opposed? Melanie's frozen, which is suitable for the winter road thing. So are you in favor of the motion as presented, Councillor Corbio?
Oh, froze again.
Uh-oh.
She's frozen again, just like the princess.
Somebody put some salt on her.
Can she text us?
It's 2020.
At least she's not making like a horrible face.
Yeah,
Though.
right.
There she is.
She's back.
So Councillor Corbio, are you in favor of the motion or as presented by Councillor Peterson?
This is not Donna's suggestion, right?
Right.
Okay, no.
So you're opposed to the motion?
I'm opposed to the motion.
Okay, so the motion is defeated 4-3, and then you, Councillor Bauer, I guess, would make an amending motion, is that correct? Or no?
No, Your Worship, you would just move a new motion.
Okay, so we would have a new motion.
I move that council, Your Worship, I'm ready with my motion. The council adopt council policy number 3201, winter road maintenance policy, with the following amendment: that roads be cleared at 5 centimeters and pathways be cleared at 3 centimeters, as recommended by Donna.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And opposed? And the motion is carried 4-3. So you have your direction now.
Thank you.
I voted for
I
it, Your
think-
Worship.
Oh, you did vote for it, so 5-2? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Donna, and thank you, Jim, for your presentation and support.
Thanks, Donna.
Your worship, could I, can you hear me?
No.
Put it like right in your mouth.
Hello? 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 Sorry. I just want to add that we are receiving some compliments, and I'd like to pass those compliments on to Donna and her staff, because I think you're going to see a real improvement in the performance as far as road maintenance is concerned in Strathmore, and we're already starting to get some positive feedback. So, thank you, Donna, and your staff.
Good work.
Thank you very much. That brings us to 9.2, Municipal Reserve Disposition of Lot 6 MR, Block 17, Plan 941613, page 45. And Jim, you're speaking to that again, or Ethan?
I just want to, as you all know, Renee, I just want to mention that Renee is leaving us. She's accepted a position with the City of Calgary. She will be missed, and this will be her last meeting or presentation to council.
Good evening, Renee, and welcome, and congratulations on your career move.
Thank you. I just gotta get, where is the presentation? There you go. I don't know if you can see my screen, because usually it comes up there, so it's behind me. Okay, okay. Sorry, I'll take this off too so that it's a little clearer. Okay, so I'm here this evening to present the municipal reserve disposition, which is the parcel of land located currently housing the A&W sign at the corner of 817 and Highway 1. Administration is bringing forward, here we go. Administration is bringing forward a request for disposition of municipal reserve located at Lot 6 MR, Block 17, Plan 9411613, containing 0.3423 acres along the northwest corner at the intersection of Highway 1 and Highway 817. And just shown here on the map, showing the location. Council gave first reading on October 1st, 2020. Public hearing and advertising on the site are required under the Municipal Government Act, Section 674 and Section 230, and in accordance with Section 606. The public hearing has been held on November 18th, 2020, today. Advertisement in the newspaper was placed in the October 30th and the November 6th, 2020 editions of the Strathmore Times, along with notice post being posted on the subject site on October 30th, 2020. Notice of public hearing was also mailed to adjacent landowners on October 30th, 2020 as a courtesy. Previous subdivision applications of the original parcel have resulted in the creation of highway commercial district parcels, which allow for commercial development to occur in this location. The subject parcel is municipal reserve and appears to have been originally created to satisfy the MGA Section 666, which allows a subdivision authority to dedicate up to 10% of developable lands as municipal reserve. Two freestanding third-party signs, advertising signs, and a temporary shed are currently located on this parcel. So this slide just showing the two signs that are currently there. Unfortunately, the aerial doesn't show the shed that is there. We noticed that it was placed there this summer, and it is fully and wholly on this parcel. Sorry, just one more section.
Sorry, Renee, if I could just step in for a second. I'm a little confused by wording. Are we at a public hearing tonight? It says that the public hearing is set for November 18th, 2020. I'm a little confused.
Your worship, we have not had a public hearing set for this matter this evening. So the matter cannot move forward this evening.
Okay.
That's what I was wondering, yeah. So have we set a public hearing date for this as of the 2nd of December? No.
No, it was set, it was set for today, but I guess it never got set up.
Okay, so we have not set it up as a public hearing, so we can't proceed anymore. I'm really sorry, Renee. I was really wondering about that.
Could I recommend, though, that we pass a motion tonight to set the public hearing for, can we do December 2nd?
Sure, that's our next public meeting before the Christmas break and
We
before
have-
all the moving.
The unfortunate part is we have to advertise, and I'm not sure we got enough time now to advertise.
Is there a time constraint on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess we'd have to set it now till January.
Will that work for this proposal?
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no rush on this.
So then we need a motion to direct that this come to a public hearing on the first Wednesday that we have a meeting, which I believe is January 13th? Okay. Councillor Cox?
I can move that motion, Your Worship. Looking for direction. January 20. So I move, council to direct administration to bring back, to set a public hearing for January 20, to bring back this municipal reserve disposition. Does that work? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the motion. We have a motion now on the floor. All in favor? And at home? And the motion is carried. And that confusion is over.
I'm so sorry. That's okay.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Whew. So are you with us for the next one then too?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I
So
am.
welcome back. 9.3 is Municipal Development Plan, second update, page 48. Welcome back, Renee.
Yes. So, okay. So, good evening, Your Worship. I'm here this evening to provide an update on the Municipal Development Plan, the survey that we conducted in September, and to discuss the next steps. This one does not need a public hearing, so we're okay. The current Municipal Development Plan bylaw number 14-03 was adopted on April 16th, 2014, and in 2019, Council directed administration to begin work on drafting a new municipal development plan. Previous workshops and reports presented to and approved by Council have been utilized to inform the framework of the MDP. So key workshops and public consultation concluded to date include the Strathmore Strategic Economic Plan, Town of Strathmore SWOT analysis and review of emerging opportunities in Strathmore, the MVH Downtown and Highway workshops, the Municipal Development Plan survey, and numerous pop-up and scheduled events around Strathmore. Then, following the previous update on September 9th, 2020, feedback from Council was gathered anonymously to assist in identifying the top 5 key guiding principles to be utilized in guiding the proposed areas of focus to determine the core values and ultimately informing the draft municipal development plan. The number 1 answer received in the survey with 5 votes, I hope you can read this slide, it's a little bit small. The number 1 answer received in the survey with 5 votes indicated encouragement of revitalization and creating a town attractive to business. In a tie for second place with 4 votes each, respondents indicated promoting the sense of community, providing a range of housing opportunities, encouragement and promotion of the diversification of local economy and sustainable economy, and then promotion of town amenities. And then, so based on compiled research, resources, and feedback received to date, Administration has drafted the following proposed key guiding principles to guide the core values, future growth, and development of Strathmore. So number one, to encourage revitalization, creating a town attractive to business, to support the development of the downtown as a vibrant, inclusive, and attractive focal point for the community to access services, live, work, shop, and play. And then the second one is to promote the sense of community, fostering a strong sense of community based upon caring for neighbors, pride in private property and public spaces, enhancement of the built environment, and creating a safe environment through design, community engagement, and protective services. Number three is provide a range of housing opportunities to build a vibrant, attractive, and safe neighborhoods that provide for a range of housing choices, access to services, local employment, recreation, and open space. Point number four, for key guiding principle would be to encourage and promote the diversification of the local economy and sustainable economy, to foster local economic development and business retention, and attract diverse, long-term economic growth by a variety of mechanisms, including partnerships appropriate to marketing Strathmore. And then finally, the fifth one, to promote town amenities, provide a diversity of connected parks and open spaces that facilitate both active and passive community activities, ensuring a balanced, diverse, and accessible range of social, educational, health, recreation, and cultural opportunities. Sorry, that was pretty long. Administration recommends returning to Committee of the Whole in 2021 with a project update to set project timelines and scope of work for the municipal development plan. This will inform the next steps of the MDP project to ensure administration encompasses the vision and timelines that Council desires to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Renee? Seeing none, I believe you're looking for a motion to accept as information then? Yes.
I can move that,
Councillor Cox? You're on fire today.
Well, because you can't see anybody else. I move that we accept the municipal development plan for information.
Thank you very much. Councillor Peterson?
I think they're looking for direction in a motion for them to return to a Committee of the Whole in early 2021 with in 2021 with a project update to set project timelines and scope.
Do you need that in the motion then, Jennifer? They're saying no, Councillor Peterson, that it's okay?
All right.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Renee. And best of luck in your future. And that brings us to 9.4, what you've all been waiting for, especially at home, I'm sure. The updated master servicing studies, which deals with water, sanitary sewer, stormwater, and transportation. And welcome, Ethan.
If I wasn't nervous before, I am now. Thank you, Your Worship Council. I brought this earlier to a Committee of the Whole meeting, so I'm not going to go into too much detail unless you have specific questions. I would like to quickly focus on a couple of questions that were brought up at that last meeting. One was WID and irrigation funding. So recently a grant or a funding model was announced before that last time I was up here. It was an $815 million investment over 8 irrigation districts, which adds about 200,000 additional acres. In short, it should not affect our stormwater conveyance and our desires. We're not aware of the WID doing work within the town at this time, but they also haven't shared what the plans or what their portion of that funding is. So short answer, that funding or that initiative really has no effect on the town that we're aware of. City of Calgary water shortage, that was a big discussion. I did some research and I found this One Calgary, One Water document that was created in January of this year. It does note the 2036 date that was brought up. So what that date is that's when the maximum daily license capacity is reached, but it is still well below the water license annual diversion allocation. So basically what they're allowed to use as their max peak, but not necessarily what they're allowed to divert from the Bow River. So the City of Calgary is working on future water scenarios, and they'll be working with their regional partners, which we are, and also with the CMRB, which we're a part of, on how that affects future water security. What that means for this study is, in short, nothing, but as we go through future updates in 5 years and 10 years, obviously those things will continue to be taken into account. Offsite levies, I know that's an item which we'll discuss here in the future. Accepting these today has no effect on our current offsite levy bylaw. When that bylaw is brought forward for revision or adoption, that's when changes can be discussed. And then lastly, the one thing I wanted to point out is CSMI is on our agenda for later tonight. So as these master servicing studies are written, specifically stormwater, acceptance of CSMI tonight would have no need for short-term adjustments to the studies as they're presented. So that's all I've got. If there's any further questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Having read the report on stormwater, I felt much more reassured with the comments that were made and the fact that, it's going to provide a chance for us to have that stormwater pond in the Southlands. And that, I was reassured as far as development too in that northeast area, that it's going to be okay and that the developers will get some certainty as far as the discharge into the system. So that's really good. I see here on your water master servicing study, as far as the town's future water system, I know we're going to be doing Westridge Road in 2021. We're starting on that. Yes. I'm kind of at a loss as when we've decided or when we're looking at Fifth Avenue to be done. Do you have that off the top of your head when we've got that in our plans?
Top of my head, no. I know that's part of our downtown revitalization kind of as we go through future steps. I know with Fifth Avenue that when we do the water, we also want to do the storm. Fifth Avenue's upstream of a couple other projects that we need to do. One of them is the Ridge Road storm sewer, which is starting here in 2020 with the design, 2021 with the design. So we are working towards Fifth Avenue and the replacement on that street.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Any other questions for Councillor Wilson?
Not today.
Not on your life, eh? Not today. That's a good point. Councillor Peterson.
Ethan, I was having just a little bit of trouble hearing you, but when you were talking about CSMI. Sorry, I couldn't tell.
You're back.
I think we cut out from them, actually. I couldn't even see us on the camera. I could hear you fine.
You guys are back now. We can see you again.
I don't know.
So Ethan, what Dan Shute had mentioned to Mayor Fuel and I was that with the ACRP and the NBCF funding that came through those major grants to the irrigation systems, I think $9.5 million already outlined in one and $4 million and change if the grant goes through in the other, was that a lot of that money would be set up to do the eastern stages designed to serve Strathmore, the Strathmore lands on the east, and that the grant funds would be repurposed toward the western stages of the CSMI system. So just a note on that he did mention that to us, and it fits in very, very well with what you've given to us here.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Worship. Ethan, if I may just ask you, could you please let me know when you'll be coming to discuss the offsite levies? And will that also include discussion on how the money that is currently being taken off our monthly bills is being used? Is that part of this collection of money that is currently being received by the town?
Yeah, so through your worship, through the chair, those are two separate levies. I'll make that first point clear. So we have our offsite levies, which is collected from the developers at the time of development, and then we've got our utility levy, which is collected through our regular bills. Our utility levy is used for improvements to utilities. That money is being used partially on Westridge Road, as an example, but will be continually used on future utility projects. So they're two separate sources of funds, but could be used for similar things. Going back to offsite levies, the intent is to bring that in January. I'd like to do kind of a committee of the whole version first, get some input on where we want to proceed before the actual bylaw is brought forward for adoption.
Thank you very much for your clarification. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ethan? Then I'm looking for a motion.
See, again, sure. I move that council adopt the Water Master Service Study, Sanitary Sewer Master Service Study, Stormwater Master Service Study, and Transportation Master Plan as the current guidance documents for the development in Strathmore.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Ethan. And that brings us to item 9.5, Strathmore Municipal Building Cost Update, November 2020. Mr. Stamvis, welcome.
Yes, good evening, Your Worship and councillors here and at home. Would you prefer I take my mask off so you can hear me better? If that's
can hear you really
still allowed,
fine.
I guess, for a short while. What I wanted to do was provide the monthly update that we've been providing on the building costs. It's basically a good news statement. I believe that when all is said and done, we should have about $400,000 in what we call surplus funds for the project. There are still a few uncertainties that are left. While the project is substantially complete, it is not totally complete. So there are some outstanding items, and we're doing still a couple of major pieces of work that are outside of the PCL contract. So that's the audio-visual work and the furniture supply, and then there's still the signage contract that we're dealing with. So there are some uncertainties still in terms of the cost of the audio-visual work. We do have some contingencies in there, but we anticipate some issues coming up. One that has come up, for example, is the use of the closet in the corner of council chambers for the audio-visual equipment. The consultants have said that it will generate too much heat to be stored there safely. So we're looking at the possibility of either providing a venting system for that little closet, or alternatively, we would have to move that equipment to the server room, which is possible, but our first choice would be to provide some ventilation and keep it in that closet. So that's just an issue, and we'll look at that based on what the cost is going to be to provide a solution, and go from there. We also have an outstanding claim for delays that has not been resolved. In fact, the amount that the contractors have come back has been slightly higher than what we've allocated in our spreadsheets as a provision for that. So that still has to be negotiated. I'm yet to be convinced of the validity of that claim. However, we've asked for documentation and we haven't seen it all yet, so that's still ongoing. And then there's a minor item. I would call it minor, but that depends on your point of view. We noticed with the building complete now that we have some issues with the air circulation just from the design of the atrium. The upper half of the atrium gets to be quite warm in order to keep the lower floor reasonably comfortable, and we will have staff working in that atrium area, so we are going to have to keep it warm, and the doors do open. Even though we have the vestibules, we will have the doors opening and closing, so we need to pump warm air into that lower part of the atrium. So those of you coming on the tour will notice as you go up the stairs the temperature rises quite quickly. As you go across the bridge between the elevator and your worship's office, you'll feel it's quite warm across that bridge. Everywhere where people are working or staying is really quite comfortable. It's a localized issue, but we do have to look at ways where we might want to mitigate that. We may want to decide to live with it, see how bad it is, and then see what we want to do in perhaps a year's time. But it's an issue that's out there, and when you come on the tour, you'll probably notice that. So those are things that are just outstanding. We do have a report that we'll be presenting at some point on some suggestions for some allocation for that surplus fund.
That's where the statue of me had first come up, right?
I think that's right,
Yeah.
yes.
Thanks.
I'm not sure where that ranked on our table.
Yeah,
but,
it's pretty low.
We do have some suggestions for that surplus, and we hope to bring that forward. One of the suggestions would be to keep an amount just set aside for issues that may come up over the course of the year, or after a year of living with the building. We would then say, well, we want to fix this, or we'd like to improve that, and so we'll keep some money aside so we are able to do that. Because we know that there will be some things that will come up once council and staff have lived in the building for a while. It's a little bit like when you enter into a marriage. After a year, you find out what you want to change. And so this would give us an opportunity to actually do it, right? So that's the suggestion, that money be set aside for that. So with that, open to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions for Michael on that report? Then seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you. I would like to move that council accept the cost summary report and its attendance spreadsheets be received for information, and that council directs staff to place this report and its accompanying spreadsheets on the town's website. Sorry, I had some throat bubble there.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And that brings us to our next item, 9.6, which is a further continuation and clarification on some of the costs of the municipal assets that are with the overall project. Michael and Ethan, you're here too. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just first off, I want to say that Ethan did by a large, substantial majority of the amount of work on this. All of the legwork and the calculations and putting the spreadsheets together was done by Ethan. So we did collaborate on this, but this has very much been a report and project that Ethan has generated. It's important to note that even though we've identified over $3 million in asset improvements improvements to assets that are outside the actual building, it doesn't precisely mean that we could have built the building for the balance, the 11.3 million. And it's a bit of a subtle distinction, but we couldn't do that simply because some of those assets are mutual assets. They benefit both. And so we looked at it on that basis. So other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions, although it's likely Ethan will be better at answering them than I will. So.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions from councillors? I appreciate the report greatly because to me it gives us a far more accurate portrait or picture of what the town hall building really came to, because obviously some of those assets are tied to the new building, but some of them benefit and are tied to other parts of that project. So I think the public knows that I've already been pretty forthcoming that the building came in higher than, or the project for the building came in higher than we had hoped. Possibly some of that was due to information given to us at the start that may have confused us as far as what the cost was going to be on the building, including things like FF&E. So those kinds of things are a part of this. But I really appreciate the work you did, both of you, especially you, Ethan, as far as crunching the numbers and giving us a more clear understanding of what's actually attributed to the town hall. And yeah, it's higher, but it's unfortunate for sure. It's still going to be a very good thing for the downtown area, and it's going to be a good thing. I think it's the last piece of the puzzle to try to help downtown business and to help the aesthetics or the appearance of our downtown area. I have Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, gentlemen. I know this hasn't been an easy project to manage, and so I just wanted to thank you for, let's say, carrying it over the finish line. So thank you.
Are there any other questions for Ethan and Michael? Then if not, I'm looking for Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move the council accept the report regarding the Strathmore Municipal Building Project, attribution of costs to the other municipal assets by received for information and posted to the town's website. Sorry, was that not the right one?
Yep, you got
I think we're looking for a motion to accept the report, attribute, yeah, that's the one you did, sorry, I was reading the wrong one. That's my fault, Councillor Corbeil, sorry. So we do have a motion on the floor, and I actually understand it now. So all in favor? And the motion is carried. I can't see your hand, Denise, Councillor Peterson, I can see your arm, but then your hand has disappeared. Okay, your hand is up. Good. So that motion is carried. And that brings us to the item that many have been waiting for. 9.7 CSMI agreements and participation. Michael, you get to stay again. Welcome back.
Yes, Your Worship. I do have a bit of a presentation. I believe this is an important subject, but I am prepared to waive it if you feel that the evening is dragging on and you need to get on with items here at the meeting. So I'm happy to proceed at your pleasure, Your Worship.
Yeah, because this was in, a lot of it was in language.
The contracts were not intended for you to read, and that's why I prepared a summary report so you could understand that. But in the interest of providing you with a very complete package of information, we did provide all of those contracts for you. So, but the intent was that 6-page summary report would hopefully explain it in, I'd hoped fairly clear English.
Thank you, Michael. And I had said it earlier as far as Mr. Simpson and Ethan. I felt much more reassured going through the summary and the writing that you had, because I have a much more reassured feeling that the CSMI is something that's still going to be good for the town. It provides certainty for our builders and our developers. It gives some certainty in that northeast area as far as development, as well as it's going to be it's going to make the negotiations and work towards that south stormwater pond, which is going to be essential for Strathmore's development as well. So I feel a lot better about the CSMI agreement and the contract after reading those things. So thank you for that. Any other questions from councillors?
I appreciate all the detail.
Yeah.
The cross-sections and stuff like that.
Okay, then I guess I'll be looking for a motion, which is a really long motion, if someone's prepared. Councillor Peterson, did you have a comment, or are you prepared for a motion?
No, I'm prepared for the motion, Your Worship.
Okay.
I would move that the mayor be authorized to sign the attached Cooperative Stormwater Management Initiative, CSMI user agreement, on behalf of the town of Strathmore, as amended, with the removal of Wheatland County as a participant, and subject to the town's share of the governance cost as outlined in Schedule E of the agreement remaining unchanged, and that the CAO or his or her designate be authorized to act as the Town of Strathmore voting representative at the CSMI board table, and that the Strathmore voting representative be directed to vote in favor of the CSMI entering into the attached management agreement as amended with the removal of Wheatland County as a participant with the Western Irrigation District, WID, and that the Strathmore voting representative be directed to vote in favor of the CSMI entering into the attached development agreement as amended with the removal of Wheatland County as a participant with the WID, and that the Strathmore voting representative be instructed to seek an administration fee to be levied as a condition of entry or re-entry into CSMI by a new partner, and that the attached background report be received for information. And if I could just speak briefly to the motion, Your Worship.
Yes, go ahead.
I just was really grateful for Michael, and even though it's 3 days of my life I'll never get back, I really think that we have no other alternative, and that at this time that CSMI is very, very much our best alternative, and that I think that members of the CSMI right now are more fortunate than ever because we have access to these significant grant funds, and I'm hopeful that those grant funds will reduce our capital investment. And I really believe that that this is the right decision, and that it will give certainty to our developers into the future. And so I'm very much in favor of the motion, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. And Jim, if you wouldn't mind just weighing in on one thing, I was very appreciative and very happy about the annual costs being reduced overall. Could you just touch on how, even though we've lost some of a couple of the partners in the CSMI, the overall costs have been able to stay reasonable? I believe you touched on Rocky View County as part of that.
Yes, I did. I'd mentioned earlier that with Wheatland County dropping out, the additional cost, most of the additional cost was absorbed by Rocky View County. Our costs just went up slightly. I believe, Mike, maybe $1,000 a year or something in that neighborhood.
About 500.
Oh, sorry, 500. So, but the bulk of any increase in costs was picked up by Rocky View County, which definitely helped Strathmore.
Thank you. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Also, Michael, can you touch on the what you did as far as the outflows go as well? Just so our public know that, because when originally this came to us, we had a problem with the outflow.
Yes.
Volumes.
We had an issue, there were some big issues that we had, and we had, 3 major wins through the whole negotiation process, of which, as Jim mentioned, the administration costs, we managed to get those reduced substantially, because originally we would have been levied with what would have amounted to a third of the $200,000 a year in administration costs. So the progress we've made has been really good. But the big showstopper until about a year ago was the fact that there was a VCT set at 40 millimeters per year. A VCT means a volume control target. And what that meant that the outflows from development would have been restricted to such a degree that development would just not have been viable. And essentially, we went back to the board and we said, we can't be a participant if we are held to that. So the new number that is in the agreement is 129 millimeters per year. And that is the number that we're left with by default if we build our storm detention ponds in such a way that we meet the actual peak flow release rates that we still do have to adhere to. But those are not a showstopper. Those are doable by development. And So we're certainly prepared to live with those. And we just, through our studies, we've said if we build our pond to that, we will be by default having a volume control target of 129 millimeters per year. So that's the number that the agreements are setting out.
By saying that then, Michael, the developers themselves are happy with what?
Yes, very much so. They are under a zero release protocol right now. And so this enables development to happen once that market recovers and allows it. It also, as your worship was saying, I think it will create a much better environment for when the town renegotiates its stormwater agreement with the WID, that will include that east development area, which also is currently under a zero release protocol. So those lands east of George Freeman Trail essentially they can develop, but it's quite restricted because the size of the ponds are very big at this time. So hopefully this will set the stage for less difficult negotiations with the WID as the town proceeds with that.
And I just have one more, if that's okay, Your
Sure.
Worship. Thank you. And so, one more question, Mike. Can you touch a little bit on as well the bulk of the money that we are required to pay according to the CMSI isn't required up front. Can you explain just a little bit for our public that we aren't just throwing these dollars out the window?
No, other than the administration costs, and then there will be some reserve costs and some operating costs, so they'll be quite small initially. So other than that, the capital costs, that 1.3 million, will all be paid through off-site levies. And the agreement has a proviso in there in that the capital works cannot proceed until there have been sufficient levies generated, provided, and set aside to cover those costs for the capital works. So the town is protected in that way. And we need that simply because it's so very difficult to predict what the rate of development is going to be.
So essentially, no development means no cost. Development,
Essentially, yes,
cost,
that's correct.
but only the collected is paid.
That's correct.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you for that, Councillor Cox. And again, thank you, Michael, for your report. And we have that motion on the floor. And just as a final comment, Councillor Sobel, did you have your hand up? Councillor Peterson, no?
Yeah, just, Your Worship, I just wanted to mention what Dan Shute had said to us when he met with us, and that was that, separate from CSMI, the WID is really looking to think about some more of their soft costs in terms of partnerships with Strathmore, and that came as a result of your conversation about what they've done for Strathmore with regards to the pathway system. And I just think it's good to note that now, that there is lots of opportunity for us connected to our partnerships, I think, broadly, with Rocky View, the county, and with WID and the town. I think there's potentially some very good outcomes.
Thank you. I was actually going to mention that too, that I look forward to the collaboration and the goodwill that we've created and that we've worked on with WID, and I think this is part of that. So it's gonna help both parties, and I've always appreciated the fact that they give us access to that area along the canal for people to walk on. So we have an incredibly long motion on the floor. All in favor? And at home, playing at home, and yes, we have it passed 7-0. That motion is carried. And that brings us, thank you, Michael. That brings us to 9.8, Council Committee Appointments, Strathmore Library Board. It says Deborah Hamrick, so I'm going to turn to her.
Excuse me, Your Worship.
Yeah.
If I could make a motion, I will move that we extend the meeting till 10:30.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to extend the meeting to a maximum of 10:30? Yes, we have a motion on the floor by Councilor Montgomery to extend the meeting to a maximum of 10:30 p.m. tonight. All in favor? Grudgingly. All opposed? Councillor Corby, are you opposed? You're in favor? Okay, so that motion is carried, and Deborah Hamrick, the spotlight is on you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Hopefully you can hear me this time. The Library Board has recently had a vacant position. We've received an application to fill that, so administration is just bringing it forward for council's approval.
Thank you, Deborah. So, hearing that, do we have a councillor ready to make a motion? Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. I will move the council accept the recommendation for committee appointment from the nomination committee as presented, and the council appoint Ann Horn to the Strathmore Library Board ending October 31st, 2021.
Thank you for that motion. You've all heard the motion. All in favor?
Technically, it was accepted.
And the motion is carried. Thank you. That brings us now to 9.9 draft financial report to September 30th, 2020. Mr. Lisa is here. Welcome. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, Council. I'm here to present the Q3 2020 financial update. So we'll start with the statement of financial position. The total of the cash, temporary investments, and investments at September 30th, 2020 totaled $21.7 million. Our cash balance, not including these investments, at November 18th is sitting at $7.4 million. So we have a healthy cash balance. Taxes and grants in place of taxes receivable is significantly higher than December 2019. At September 30th, taxes receivable was $2.9 million compared to $590,000 at December 31st, 2019. However, collections have picked up as the due date for our taxes was October 31st. And as of today's date, our taxes receivable is approximately $1.5 million, which is only $200,000 higher than the previous November of 2019. So. Our tip payments have also picked up and are very close to our normal levels, so that's also a good sign. The trade and other accounts receivable of $2.7 million is up $670,000 from the prior year. The utility account receivable to the end of September is $328,000 higher than the balance at December 31st. The remaining difference is from grants and GST. So we accrued $871,000 of the most grant. So this is included in the income of our financial statements. And we actually received the funds last week, so we received our $1.37 million, which is great. Our total financial assets are $27.6 million compared to $22.3 million at December 31st, 2019. So if we move on to the liability section, the total liabilities are $42 million compared to $26.3 at December 31st, 2019. Accounts payable has increased by $4.2 million from $4.8 at December to $9 million at September 30th. This is mainly due to our capital projects like our town hall. All the invoices are starting to come in and the project is almost complete. So, deferred revenue increased $5.9 million compared to December 2019. This increase represents the amount of taxes collected for the period of October to December 2020. So basically, this is tax prepayments, about $2.5 million. We also have $1.9 million of MSI grant and $1.5 million of the federal gas tax grants. Our long-term debt increased from $18.9 million at December 31st to $24.5 million at September 30th. And this increase is due to the utility borrow, the additional town hall borrow, and the emergency operating borrow. So we went from negative $4 million to negative $14.7 million. Does anyone have any questions on the statement of financial position? No questions? Okay. So the next statement is the Statement of operations. The operating revenue of $23.3 million is 76% of the total budgeted revenue of the year. Again, $871,000 of the most grant is included in government transfers for operating. Penalties and taxes, penalties on taxes and utilities is down, which is expected. The town started charging penalties on utilities again July 31st, and taxes were due on October 31st, so that's why that's so far down. Total expenses to September 30th were $24.9 million, which is 73% of the budget. This is due to a decrease in spending due to temporary layoffs and a reduction in spending with the closure of our rec facilities. Does anyone have any questions on the statement of operations? Okay, so the next statement is the schedule of segmented reporting. Does anyone have any questions there? It's very similar to the statement of operations, just by segment. Okay. Schedule of property taxes. The schedule is based on 75% of the budgeted taxation and reflects the actual requisitions and payments made during the first 3 quarters of 2020. Any questions there? Total salaries, wages, and benefits paid to September was $9.2 million and represents 70% of the total budget of $13.2 million. In addition to that, total budgeted salaries and wages and benefits of $13.2 million is 31% of the total town budget of $42.6 million. Any questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just have one. That's considered a good percentage, isn't it? That 31% you just mentioned?
I believe so, yes. Yeah, compared to other municipalities.
It's 5% lower, Your Worship. That's really good news.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Peterson.
The next schedules are the schedules of utilities reporting. So again, we can see that at Q3, we're still achieving our full costing of utilities. Any questions there? The next schedule is a schedule of accumulated surplus. Any questions on that one? Okay. The reserve continuity statement. So the statement shows the reserves at September 30th. Total reserves decreased from $9.2 million at December 31st to $9.1 million during the year. Our capital spend is the last statement, and it lists our capital projects to the end of September, and our spend was $9.4 million, and it also mentions the funding source of each of the projects. Is there any questions on that statement? No? Okay. Perfect.
Are there any questions? Oh, there we go. Any questions from home? Jennifer, are you looking, do you need a motion then to accept this? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Cox.
Your Worship, I move that council discuss the draft financial, accept the draft financial report to September 30th, 2020 for information purposes.
Thank you. We have a motion. Jennifer, I have a quick question for you. I know the mask bylaw is a very important one to a lot of people. We have no wiggle room to move that up now that we've adopted the agenda as originally amended?
Your Worship, council can amend the agenda at any point in time during the meeting.
Okay. Does council feel like we should get on to that, or are we My worry is that if we, for whatever reason, one gets us dragging and we don't get to the face covering bylaw by 10:25-ish, we could be in big trouble as far as, I don't know. What do you folks think?
Councilor Peterson.
Councilor oh, sorry, I didn't even see you. Councilor Peterson?
Sorry. I would move a change to the order paper to accommodate that.
So are you making that motion then?
Yes, yeah. A change to the order paper to bring the face covering bylaw forward.
Jennifer, do you need to know exactly where we would move it as part of the motion?
Yeah, Your Worship, I would move it from item 12.2 to item 9.10.
So move.
Okay, so we have a motion to move the face covering bylaw from 12.2 to 9.10. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Okay, that motion is carried, which means we're now on the bylaw number 20-21, face covering bylaw. Trent West will be presenting on this.
To you, Mr. Mayor, we're just going to grab Trent and Paul and get them in here to the meeting, and then we're ready to proceed.
Recess to have a bio break.
We have a motion for a quick recess, a 2-minute recess. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Welcome back to the November 18th public meeting. And at this time, our acting CAO, Doug Legore, has an introduction for us.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce Paul Salvatore, who is our new Director of Community and Planning Services. Paul joined us the latter part of October and has been busy. He's been right fast on the ground since he got here. So welcome, Paul, to the organization. And
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, and welcome to the staff. And that now brings us to item 9.10, bylaw number 20-21, face covering bylaw. And Mr. West, you're going to be speaking to it first.
Yes, Your Worship and Council. First, let me start by apologizing for my dress and deportment. First time I've ever stood in front of a council without a shirt and a tie. But I'm strapped up and I've got a blood pressure thing going on. And so if I start making noise, it's not my hungry stomach, it's my Popeye cuff that's starting to fill up. So I apologize in advance for that. Good evening and thank you. So before you is the face covering bylaw. As redrafted based on some of the recommendations, based on all of the recommendations of council, and taking into account some of the other high point conversations that council had during the last conversation about this bylaw. We felt that there was a way to include some of those key or critical points, such as targets and triggers and what it looks like and what it takes to get back out of the bylaw. So we found a way to incorporate those things into the bylaw and address those things. In addition, in this package, we've provided what an ECC would look like as we continue to move forward, so that you have a bit of an understanding also of what we do in the background as things escalate or de-escalate. And I can walk through with council the amendments to the bylaw from the one that was first reading, if council so chooses, and I will. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Promise me this won't happen at the new one. Okay. Thank you. Are there, obviously, there are probably some questions from council, or do we can start with questions before a motion goes on the floor. Are there any questions of Trent? Councilor Montgomery.
Thank you. Like, this question is, I guess, just for admin generally. So at the last meeting where we discussed this, we did pass first reading of the existing bylaw, and then we also passed an amendment that I proposed where it would be brought back to where businesses could opt in for protection under the bylaw. And I'm just wondering procedurally, like, since council did vote to have that amendment brought back, why is that not being an option presented before us? And then I also offered an amendment where there would be targets, and then we could kind of move in and out of the mask bylaw as we kind of meet or exceed those targets, and that was defeated. And yet I see this in the bylaw, so I'm just wondering why an amendment that was defeated would make it in, but an amendment that was successful is not being presented tonight.
Mr. Legore.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, actually, Councillor Montgomery's first request where businesses opt in is automatically part of this bylaw because it'll cover all businesses. If this mass bylaw goes into place, it's all public places, which is every business in the community. So they're automatically part of that. So you don't have to have a clause in the bylaw where they opt in. They're automatically in whether they like it or not because they are a public place.
But that was the intention of the amendment, was so that businesses could pick and choose whether or not they wanted to have that mandate in their place of business, essentially.
Yes, and so if you make it optional, based on our legal discussion that we had with legal counsel, you might as well forget your bylaw. It's not enforceable, because you've got a mix all over the community, whether they're in or they're out. So, based on legal advice that we got, this is the way to go if we're going to go forward with the mask bylaw.
Sorry, so you're saying that if a particular business, wanted to mandate masks, and we couldn't have a bylaw that would specifically say any business that has a sign up would be protected by the bylaw?
No, what I'm saying, Mr. Mayor, is that they cannot opt out of the bylaw. Right now, any business can make it mandatory that masks be worn within their premise.
Right.
Under this bylaw, when the mask bylaw comes into play, it is compulsory that they have to wear a mask when they go into any business, because it is a public place. But if you make it such that they can opt out of that, based on the advice we've got from legal counsel, your bylaw becomes meaningless.
Right, but the intent was not for them to be able to opt out. It was for businesses to be able to opt in.
But they will
to protection
automatically
under
be
the
in.
bylaw.
Yeah.
Right, I know, but the point was that some businesses may choose to opt in, while some businesses may choose to not opt in.
That's right.
And
And
so
if
the
you have that, your bylaw is meaningless, is what we're being told by legal counsel.
So you're saying that laws cannot be specific to the particular establishment?
That's right.
So I can't have, like, let's say, a drinking establishment where you have to be over 18, and people who are under 18 would be prohibited. That's not protected by, like, I had that in mind when I thought of it. Like, a business can obviously, and they can be protected by law in specific instances, like a drinking establishment, or somewhere where you have to meet certain expectations in order to be in that establishment, and so that's why I'm surprised to learn that we can't basically allow businesses to opt into protection under the bylaw.
And the reason being, because they're automatically in. By having it as a public, they become part of it.
Well, it sounds like the motion sounds like businesses can opt in, but it also would give them the option to opt out. That's what Councillor Montgomery had said earlier just now. He said that if some businesses choose not to opt in, it's just semantics if they're opting in or opting out.
That's correct.
So do we have a motion from prior with that amendment on the books?
So,
I don't,
if I may,
Go
I
ahead.
reviewed the council meeting a couple of times, and I stand to be corrected, although I listened to and watched the meeting. The motion was for a legal opinion on the ability to opt in to the bylaw. That was the motion that was passed. And that's what we did, was we got a legal opinion.
Okay.
On whether that could open.
If I could, like, I don't believe the wording was to get a legal opinion. It was to get the proper wording. There was concern about the wording that I proposed, and I made a motion to to basically get lawyers to word it properly so that it would be worded correctly for the bylaw. That's what the intent, and that's what the motion said, was that it was to bring back the proper wording of the law, not
So-
to get legal advice on whether or not it's...
I guess my question then is, if they went to legal to get advice on the wording, and then legal said that would basically defeat the bylaw.
Yeah, I guess, like, I would have to see, like, the legal advice that says that we can't craft a law where a particular establishment can opt in to protection under that law. I'm confused as to how, like,
I guess my question to you, Councillor Montgomery, is if you want those businesses to opt in, are you wanting to also give them the freedom to not opt in?
So currently, we have private businesses that have chosen to mandate masks, such as Walmart or Co-op. There's other businesses that have done it as well, and I fully support their right to do that. And one of the concerns that was raised as a reason for having a mandatory mask bylaw was that some businesses might be uncomfortable or unable to enforce their own mask rule. And so the idea is that by having businesses be able to opt in, those businesses that choose to mandate masks would have the force of the bylaw behind them, so that if somebody chose to come in and not wear a mask, then instead of the business owner having to engage that person, they could simply call bylaw and be protected under the force of the bylaw, essentially.
But I guess my question to you is, does that, if that were to go that way, does that then, if I've got a motorcycle shop, do I then have the freedom to not opt into enforcing masks?
Well, there wouldn't be anything to enforce, because if you haven't opted in, then you're choosing not to have a mask mandate within your business. And I believe it should. I believe that, I look around and I see a lot of people are already wearing masks. I go to the stores and people are wearing masks by choice, and I think that that's a good idea. And I believe the best way to get the public to buy in and cooperate with any sort of recommendations that we might come up with, such as wearing masks, that it be done of their own free will, and also that people will be able to pick and choose what businesses they choose to shop in, based on whether or not that business feels safe or not to them.
I guess, Mr. Legore.
Based on the legal opinion we got, if you try and put the business, and I'm going to say either way, if you opt in or opt out, your bylaw becomes meaningless. If you're going to have a mask bylaw, you make it mandatory for public places, which is what we have drafted here before you. And then it is compulsory that people have to wear masks at all public places.
So basically then it passed 6-1 to direct you to get legal advice to help draft the bylaw, and this is what Mr. West is coming back with. So I guess what we would do then is we would put a motion on the floor for second reading. That allows for discussion, and then we as a council will decide after discussion what we want to approve or to pass.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. And here, when you present your motion for second reading, you should present that you read motion bylaw, or the motion to read bylaw 2021 be read a second time as amended, because it is a different version than what was given first reading, as Mr. West has stated to you.
Can I have some clarification?
Councillor Cox?
I just need some clarification. So the bylaw that we have in front of us is the amended bylaw, except for yesterday, we got we got a clarification email, and the things that it's recommending. So for example, at the very bottom, it says, oh, no, not, legal has suggested removing 4H as potentially confusing. But 4H, I see 4H is still in here. So I guess what I'm asking is, this isn't these clarifications are not reflected in the bylaw that's in front of us that you're asking us to give second reading to. Like it's messy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could?
Yep.
So you present a motion to read bylaw 2021 a second time as amended. And then there is an opportunity to make two further amendments to that motion. One where you can take out the clause that the lawyer said was confusing, and we're recommending that you add a 4.2 for the enforcement of it, would help us with the enforcement side of it.
And so are the rest of what's listed in this email already taken care of?
Yes.
It's just the part underneath the lines?
That's right. And what the intent of that was to clarify for you that this is telling you what we've changed in the bylaw.
Are there any other questions from people? I know there's some confusion now, obviously. So is someone prepared to put a motion on the floor then?
Question to administration, please.
Question to administration from Councillor Bauer.
Last time we did this bylaw, there was a little bit of confusion of whether or not we would be able to speak to the bylaw and have discussion. So now that this is being presented to us, we've already done first reading. Are we able to speak to the bylaw at second, or do we have to wait till third? Second. All right, thank you.
Councillor Sobel? Oh, you're muted.
Your worship, I'm ready with the motion. I just, does the whole bylaw have to be read, Mr. Legore?
No, the whole bylaw does not have to be read. You can move that bylaw 2021, the face covering bylaw, be presented for second reading as amended.
All right, your worship, I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 20-21, face coverings bylaw as amended.
All right, thank you for that motion. And now we have the motion on the floor. We can have discussion on that motion. So, Councillor Bauer, you're first.
Thank you. I prepared a statement to enable me to represent my constituents and their views. For the past 3 months, I've been compiling quotes and stories from people, personal and stories about loss, and I have the following that I would like to read. Our government has had plenty of time to enact a province-wide mandatory face mask bylaw. Instead, they have left it up to each municipality and individual Albertan to make that choice, which I believe is personal and needs to continue to align with our individual values and ability to assume risk. Just as in the rest of the province, the number of active cases of COVID-19 has reached our highest peak so far since the beginning of this pandemic. All of our grocery stores, gas bars, schools, banks, health facilities, and food establishments have implemented safe practices including sanitizer, social distancing, face coverings, and reminders to all that if you feel unwell, you should not enter, signage and including forms. It's not that we haven't been trained properly, it's just that we have stopped asymptomatic testing as it was no longer pragmatic or practical during cold and flu season. The fact that the numbers keep going up is not due to a lack of face coverings. I see masks being worn everywhere. I shop, dine, bank, or fill up with gas in our community. So what is it then? Could it be that the virus is getting through the masks? Could it be that the masks are being worn improperly? Could it be that the masks are being reused or not being cleaned properly or not at all? It could be a combination of all these, as the science just keeps playing catch up. I do not feel qualified as a politician to make decisions that affect an individual's health or take away their right to choose what's best for them. I believe education is the key, and we should continue to promote the safety of our community. We can control what our employees do through policies to keep them safe and help them feel supported. Taking away an individual's business owner's right to implement a mask wearing policy is just the same as forcing them to implement one. That is not a made in Strathmore solution, and it is not our role to tell people in public spaces what to do on private property. I'm afraid that this debate, included in this proposed bylaw of masks and the subsequent penalties for both individuals and businesses failing to comply, goes too far. We are but a small community, and I would like to be known for kindness, how we treat our neighbors, taking care of our most vulnerable while easing restrictions we've placed on low-risk groups, particularly children. I cannot agree with a bylaw where the focus will be on virtue signaling and disregard an individual's right to choose what's right for themselves and those they care about around them. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we go on to other discussion, I did receive a phone call from Dr. Pisus. He's one of the doctors who's on the list. I think we have a list of about 15 doctors who've signed or had their names stand in a letter that endorses masks and a mask bylaw in town. And he was quite strong in favor of mask wearing. He believes the bylaw should be come in because he mentioned the fact that people do have rights as far as whether or not to do certain things, but they also have responsibilities to try to protect others. And so he's very much in favor. These doctors are very much in favor of masks. I believe we also get direction from Dr. Hinshaw, who's the Chief Health Officer for the province of Alberta. She's recommending masks. Dr. Tam, the federal health officer, is recommending masks. Alberta Health Services is, and the province of Alberta is as well. Just on global tonight, they talked about how asymptomatic people are the cause of most of the recent community spread of the virus. So my concerns about not having a bylaw is actually the very same thing that Councillor Montgomery touched on, that certain businesses wouldn't opt in. And what would happen is, in my view, if there's no masks there, then any asymptomatic people who come in to shop there because there are no masks, no mask bylaw there, they're going to be even more at risk in that area, as well as staff and other people. So it's a contentious issue. I know people have a lot of concerns about rights, but it's kind of concerning that we would not be listening to or heeding the advice of medical practitioners, especially our local doctors and Dr. Hinshaw and Alberta Health Services. So that's my concern as far as that goes. Any other councillors want to have? Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate Councillor Brower's comments, but we have, as municipal politicians and provincial politicians, often bring in issues that deal with health and safety for our constituents. It's something that sometimes has to be done. Our speeding enforcement and traffic lights that we have in town, smoking in public. These are all restrictions on people's rights, but they're done for a reason, and they're done to improve health and safety for our constituents. And it's unfortunate that sometimes that has to happen, but you know what? The long and the short of it is sometimes it does. I also have a short statement, not so short, but that I'll read anyway. So the question before us tonight is not overly complicated. We're not talking lockdown or mass quarantine or even mandatory testing. The question is whether we're at a place and time when we should mandate mask use in an effort to reduce the spread of an aggressive and potentially deadly virus. There is overwhelming expert evidence, overwhelming, from epidemiologists, public health scholars, and virologists, that the use of face coverings is a valuable tool in spread reduction to not only those in proximity to the mask user, but to the mask user himself or herself. I have forwarded a list of studies and reports which support mask use to both council and administration today. I'm disappointed in both our provincial and federal government's failure to act in this regard. Surely their focus on keeping our businesses open is contingent on keeping our COVID numbers low. So it's difficult for me to understand why mandating masks inside public buildings should not have been a priority. But clearly they've decided to leave these decisions to municipalities. And the Prime Minister last week was very clear on that point. This, in spite of the fact that active cases in Alberta have risen from under 1,500 cases in October to over 10,000 today. As well, hospitalization has increased fourfold during this time, and ICU patients fivefold. COVID has robbed us of close to 450 persons in the province to date. The Municipal Government Act directs and requires municipalities to provide good government and to provide things that are necessary to maintain safe communities. Without action by other levels of government, I believe that makes it our job to do the right thing. This should not be looked at as a political decision, but rather a health and safety one. The fact that our municipality has moved to enhanced status by Alberta Health Services should serve as a warning that things are getting worse, more so because winter is arriving. The time to do the right thing is now. As Canadians, we're regularly subjected to severe weather incidents or natural disasters such as floods and fire. Residents routinely stock up and even purchase sheets of plywood to board up windows and doors of homes and businesses on occasion. Evacuation is sometimes required. The preparation these people take are based on the best science and data available. Sometimes the precautions may seem to be overstated as the storm veers off course, but most will repeat their preventative actions when the next event is forecast. Well, right now, the biggest storm we've ever encountered is at our door, and it would be irresponsible for us not to take action, to do something that can at least try and reduce some of the harm that appears to be in our future. We have to put our faith in the experts, and all the real experts are suggesting mask use. Please think of what this bylaw is actually asking of our residents. It's simply in order to cover your mouth and nose when you're in interior public places. That's it. We should be encouraged with the amazing work being done on vaccines, and there's hope that vaccinations could start in the spring of 21. Let's do everything we can do to get to that point as safely as possible. Strathmore is known for its generosity and kindness. Protecting each other by reducing the germs we all spread should not be considered a violation of a person's rights or part of a government conspiracy or even a nuisance. It should simply be something we do to help protect the ones we love and the neighbors we share our community with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. I have Councillor Peterson next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really do think that town councils should hopefully not have to be enforcers, and we should ideally be safety nets. And I believe that this bylaw helps us create a safety net. I believe that wearing a mask should not be a politically motivated ideology, because public health issues need to be supported by the evidence. Politicizing mask wearing might have the potential to do the exact opposite of what it means to achieve in times of freedom, and may instead cause our businesses to have to shut down, as we've seen in so many of our neighboring countries' environments. That would be a terrible blow to an economy, to businesses who have done nothing to deserve this and only tried to do their best to stay open. I know that this bylaw is at best an imperfect solution to a complex and constantly changing public health crisis. I know that for me, it is really critical that we not put seniors at risk in our community, that we try to limit the deaths in this community, that we try to commit all of our efforts to making sure that when our neighbors' kids get in an accident, there's a bed for them in the ICU or in the emergency. I understand completely not wanting to wear a mask. I understand the skepticism that people have because of all the evidence changes, because there has been updated info and there has been new information and there has been misinformation. So I understand the skepticism around it. I understand that if you're young and you're healthy, that you see no reason to wear a mask and that you want to maintain control over your life. I understand it. I get it. And I don't want to change the minds of people who feel that way. I don't want to change their minds or their beliefs or their actions. But I do respectfully ask if we could accept this as a means to negotiate a change that would minimize the harm that we might accidentally do to the people in our community. Just like the adults who hated to wear a seatbelt or hated to wear a motorcycle helmet. They changed their behaviors, sometimes in their own best interest and sometimes in the interest of the children that they sought to protect. I hope that it is this kind of mentality that leads us to pass this bylaw. so that we can create the safety net that our people deserve, and that we can focus on how we might protect everyone in this community through the measures that this will have. And so I'm really hoping that we can look at this and say that we did our best, that we didn't try to be elusive, and that we didn't try to duck the issue, and that, as Councillor Bauer and Councillor Sobel said, I think there are levels of government that have, and I don't think that we can. So, Your Worship, I really, really am in favor of this bylaw. I think it's measured, it's reasoned, and it's a kindness to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from councillors? The only one I can offer is, I forgot to mention this from Dr. Pisus, and that was, he said to me this afternoon that he doesn't believe, and the other doctors are in agreement with him according to him, but Dr. Pisus told me that he doesn't think it's manageable for Strathmore to keep its numbers low when we're surrounded by the high case numbers in Chestermere, Calgary, Siksika, and Wheatland County, that it's just a matter of time before our numbers take off. And so he wanted me to make sure I got that point across too. The only other thing I would say is, and it's not really so much a discussion of the bylaw, it's more directed to the public, and it's in defense of all my counsel here. And what I wanted to say was, since this came up in September, I've received a lot of pretty harsh private Facebook messages, texts. We even got a phone call to my house. And I just want to remind the public that we're just regular people who got on town council, and we're trying to do the best we can in a health situation that nobody ever saw coming. So some of the attacks that I've had on me privately have been pretty strong, and I haven't checked with all my other councillors to see how they've been treated, but I just want to remind the public that we're just trying to make decisions, the best decision we can with the information we have to protect people. And I know we have differing opinions, and that's probably going to come out in a vote perhaps, but it's just frustrating that we're trying to do these things to help the public, and then we get attacked for it as well. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a really, really tough decision. There's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of beliefs out there. There's a lot of everything. And you know what? As a leader, I believe that we should, the town should be a leader in this. And if it was to mandate masks in town facilities, that is something that I could support. But as a governance perspective, I feel that a mask bylaw gets into operations of businesses. And for that reason, I can't support it. I would still really like to continue educating and promoting the use of masks, hand washing, social distancing, proper techniques, and all that kind of stuff. But to go for a bylaw, I can't support that.
I know their numbers are higher, but Chestermere passed unanimously a mask bylaw yesterday. Our numbers aren't that high, but my question then is to administration. If the bylaw were to not pass, then only the people on the winning side of the motion would be the ones who would bring it back. And I guess my question is, we're meeting December 2nd. If the numbers are high, I don't know how that affects us. So I just wanted to verify that. That's the only way it can come back, right, from the side that is, if you want to use the word victorious.
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Is there any further discussion on, Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you. So I just want to say, first of all, I personally believe masks work. I came from a construction background, and as anybody who works in construction or any other industry like that knows, wearing the right type of mask and wearing it properly can be effective in saving you from any number of harmful substances. And so I think most people would agree that masks do work. So I'm not against masks as a principle. I do have some issues with the bylaw itself. As I said, I would have preferred to have a bylaw that where businesses could opt in. But as far as the bylaw that's in front of us goes, I have some issues with it. I guess I find the idea of exempting fitness activities to be kind of strange. We're dealing with a quite of a serious illness, where it's going to be problematic to not have every business mandating masks. But then if you walk in to play sports somewhere, you can be bumping around and breathing all over people. So I'm kind of I find the logical inconsistency somewhat tough to kind of process. And then the other issue that I have is, so I supported, and I do support the idea of a mask bylaw that is contingent on numbers. But I wanted that to hinge on Strathmore's numbers and not the numbers of surrounding communities. Like if Strathmore happens to, and the way I read this bylaw is, even if Strathmore gets its numbers down to 0, if our neighboring communities still have COVID issues, then we would still be under, and am I reading that correctly?
No, sir.
So it doesn't say, like, for instance, for the medium risk, like if...
The ECC operational things that we will review,
Yeah.
that's not the bylaw.
Right, I understand that's not the bylaw, but doesn't this speak to the bylaw, though?
No, that's just what, so you have an awareness of what the ECC is doing in the background.
So the bylaw is not contingent on case numbers?
The bylaw is contingent on case numbers
Right.
that are directly specific to the town, period.
Okay.
And that is, so it would be in yours right now.
Yeah.
It's 8.1, which will be 9.1 because 7 is completely missed. And where it is called the coming into and out of force. Okay? And it states how we come into force and how we come out of force based on only Strathmore numbers.
Okay, sorry, because I was reading it based on open as according to this.
Yeah, and that's-
Okay.
That's part of the situational awareness that I felt I wanted council to have about what the ECC is doing during this time that's happening in the background.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. As far as like the rest of it goes, I have a real problem with, and this is part of the reason why I wanted businesses to be able to opt in, because I feel like we've already really placed a lot of, and just in my term on council, we placed a number of burdens on businesses as far as kind of complying with various regulations that we've enacted, and I find that there's maybe not as much thought into the burden that we place on businesses as there should be, and so I find the idea of say finding a business for failing to display the proper signage, I find that to be a bit prohibitive, and then I also just have concerns in general about getting the public to buy in to a mask mandate essentially. And while I encourage, and what I wanted to actually talk about as well is, through my research, I've learned that there are some types of masks, and I kind of referenced this earlier, but there are some types of masks that are effective, and there are some types of masks that are not effective, or let's say they have a very reduced or limited efficiency or effectiveness, and so I would expect that a bylaw, if we're going to care about whether people wear something on their face, I would expect that we would also care about what they're wearing on their face, and that's not really spoken to here. The prescribed type of mask is a 3-layer mask that has a filter built into it that can be obviously washed and removed. And so it's like if we're going to do this properly, we should be telling people, if we're going to say you have to wear a mask, then you have to wear the proper kind of mask, because I have an issue with enacting laws that are, I don't want to say theater, but for lack of a better term, where there's again, when we say, okay, you have to wear a mask, but then you can go play sports and take the mask off, or you have to wear a mask, but we don't care about what kind of mask, or and even like mask usage in and of itself. A lot of people would be surprised, possibly, to learn that to properly use a mask, you have to keep it in a sterile container, and then you're supposed to wash your hands before you carefully put the mask on. Wash your hands after you put the mask on. You are not supposed to touch or adjust the mask. And if you want to take the mask off, again, you wash your hands, you take the mask off, and you store it in a sterile container, and then you, again, wash your hands. And so the people that, and so even for the people that are mask proponents, you have to, if we're going to do this right, if you're going to be a proponent of using a mask, then we should all be interested in making sure that we use them properly and that we're using the right types of masks. And so I encourage the people of Strathmore to take the threat of COVID seriously, take the threat of, harming your neighbors or your loved ones, even inadvertently, take that seriously. And from my other research as well, I've read that masks have limited efficiency or effectiveness without being combined with physical distancing. So people should be, for the time being, they should still be physically distancing. You should be looking to limit your contact with people and exposure to other people. And yeah, and so I would say, people that are wearing masks continue to do that. And businesses, if you want to have people wear masks in your business, I fully encourage you to do that. And I encourage people that would like to use those businesses to comply with the business's requests and to wear a mask. And thank you very much.
Any other comments from councillors? Councillor Peterson, I think this is second one for you.
Yep, it's my last one, Your Worship. I just would like to say that in regard to the effectiveness of masks, there was recently a peer-reviewed article in the Journal of General Internal Medicine, volume 35, and in there it did state that there is a correlation between population level masking and the number of COVID-19 cases, but an even stronger correlation with the suppression of COVID-related death rates. The really important thing about this is that it showed that if 80% of a population wears a moderately effective mask, nearly half of the projected deaths over the next 2 months could be prevented. So, Your Worship, by not instituting a mask bylaw, we are putting people in this community at risk of death because we're not making the decision. And so when people, hopefully we get through this, and hopefully, as Councillor Sobel said, we can make it, to the vaccine. But if we don't, we have to bear the responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Sobel next.
Just very quickly, I know it's my second kick at the cat. I guess I'm just going to say that I'm very surprised and extremely disappointed that members of council feel it's appropriate to disregard the learned opinions of medical doctors who have been studying a little bit longer in the field of medicine than anyone at this table. I find it sad, and I feel sorry for our community. Thank you.